It was from the Cataclysm. I can illuminate the technological tree. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 851, Preparation for the First Contact. The sound of hurried footsteps came from far away. Beep. With a crisp reminder, the door of the command center suddenly opened. Lin Zile and several academicians who were not young walked into the command center in a hurry. As soon as they walked into the door, their eyes were attracted by the picture in the huge holographic projection. In the slightly dim sky, there was a huge and bright moon. Unlike ordinary moons, this moon is essentially Saturn's moon, occupying a large area of the sky. The moon is stolid under the brilliance of the Earth moon. Almost no stars can be seen in the sky. The light orange atmosphere, the Earth moon with a slight orange glow, the flat land covered with gravel, and filled with wild atmosphere. There are also the incompatible and highly recognizable Luan bird wreckage on the land, and the intelligent life dancing around the wreckage. This fantastic scene deeply shocked the group of academicians who mainly study theology and religious studies. They stopped, eager to get into the holographic projection and experience this unique and strange atmosphere. Professor, you are looking for me. Lin Zile moved his astonished eyes back and looked at Yongchang standing in front of the command center. Zile, seeing Lin Zile and the academicians behind him, Yongchang subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. You are finally here. Having dealt with various cutting-edge technologies for a lifetime, he really didn't know how to deal with these primitive races. He gestured to the holographic projection. How to deal with civilizations that are still in the ignorant era. Do you have a corresponding plan? Lin Zile looked at Yongchang in confusion. Teach, Professor. Perhaps because of the great shock, Lin Zile's voice seemed to stutter. Sociology. The sociology branch only has corresponding treatment plans for civilizations at or above level 1. This civilization in the ignorant era. His voice became a little smaller. According to your original regulations, they are far from meeting the minimum requirements of the human union's affiliated civilization. Cough. LV. Yongchang coughed lightly, hiding the embarrassment on his face, and explained softly, these are lives on Titan. You should know their history, right? The human union owes them too much. Lin Zile's expression suddenly became serious. Titan jellyfish, you mean, accept it is an affiliated civilization. Yongchang issued an extremely concise order. Perhaps because he was afraid that Lin Zile did not understand it well, he added, just like 10 descendants. Hearing this, Lin Zile's expression became more solemn. After hesitating for a moment, he nodded. I'll try my best. Is it very difficult? Yongchang noticed the meaning of Lin Zile's words and asked again. Lin Zile couldn't help but smile bitterly. Professor, you should know that the lower the level of civilization, the weaker the ability to accept external stimuli. We can't make any mistakes when taking action against these civilizations that are still in the ignorant era. Didn't I ask you to bring those academicians who study theology and religion? Yongchang's eyes drifted behind Lin Zile and frowned slightly. Is this impossible? Lin Zile smiled bitterly and shook his head. It's very difficult. The research projects on theology and religion in the sociology branch are actually serving the thought stamp technology. This kind of coercive method that does not consider the potential for subsequent development of civilization is not applicable to Titan jellyfish. We need to discuss new countermeasures. After a fierce discussion, the command center finally determined the next action plan. In order not to cause too much stimulation to this group of fragile jellyfish, Lin Zile and other social science academicians unanimously decided to rely on religion to complete the first contact operation. Since the other party regards the aircraft left by human civilization as an object of worship, they must make good use of this natural advantage. Before that, the first thing to solve is the communication problem. Titan. Under Yongchang's command, the probe slowly lowered its altitude and tried to detect the communication methods between these jellyfish. After seeing the silicon-based life forms of 10 descendants and 10th Empire, that use electrical signals and electromagnetic waves as their communication methods. LV Yongchang had great expectations for the communication methods of these jellyfish. After all, they are also life forms living in the methane ocean. So it is reasonable for them to evolve some unique means of communication, right? So, in order to prevent misjudgments and misjudgment operations, after lowering the altitude, LV Yongchang directly issued an order that made him regret for a long time. 0. Run all monitoring and detection devices at full power. The next second, the extremely sticky gurgling and puffing sounds resounded throughout the command center. The gurgling sound came from the vocal organs of these jellyfish. As for the puffing sound, it was made by the collision of the elastic bodies of these jellyfish. It was a strange and rhythmic sound. It was not unpleasant. But listening to these sounds, some images related to the land of the reincarnation of grains inexplicably emerged in LV Yongchang's mind. In just a moment, his face changed. Not to mention LV Yongchang, the faces of all the academicians in the command center changed. He didn't have time to speak. He raised his hand and pressed the mute button on the operating interface beside him. The world was quiet. LV Yongchang breathed a sigh of relief and issued the next order. 0. Package all the information and send it to Academician Meng Lu. Tell her to be prepared and try to decipher the other party's language system at the first contact. He hesitated for a moment and added again, by the way, remember to remind Academician Meng, when playing these audio clips, remember to turn down the volume. Time passed quickly. The probe ship was still hovering in the sky. A trace of anxiety gradually rose in the heart of the patriarch. Due to the advent of the gods, the time of the great prayer ceremony was extended several times now. The standard night is almost over, but all the tribesmen are still staying at the ruins of the gods waiting for the standard day to come. The patriarch was a little afraid to imagine such a scene. He looked at the gods mount that was still in the air without any movement, and made a decision with great entanglement. Stop the great prayer ceremony immediately. Retreat. Retreat immediately. There is no doubt that the moment the order was issued, the stargazers and priests protested. As believers, they must not leave without permission before the gods give the order. The dispute took a lot of time. Finally, under the power accumulated by the patriarch over the years, the tribe stopped the big prayer ceremony and moved their exhausted bodies, rushing towards the distant ocean along the way they came. Chapter 852, God's Gift. Under the real-time monitoring of the detection ship and 0, the command center immediately discovered the unusual movements of the jellyfish. On the one hand, there is still no useful news from Academician Meng Lu. On the other hand, academicians are also curious about the movements of these jellyfish. Due to the above two factors, Lu Yongchang did not issue a contact order, but asked the detection ship to continue to follow the jellyfish group at a distance. Compared with the beginning, the picture in the high definition camera is much brighter. The sun is rising soon. Looking at the picture in the holographic projection, Lu Yongchang murmured softly. The surrounding environment becomes brighter and brighter, but the jellyfish did not feel joy. On the contrary, panic had already arisen within the group at this time. Especially feeling that the surrounding atmosphere is gradually becoming warmer and drier. Each jellyfish strives to shake its limp body, trying to speed up its walking speed. But to no avail. The clan leader raised his head and looked at the small half of an orange-red fireball that had appeared on the horizon, feeling a little desperate in his heart. There is still quite a distance from the ocean. At the current speed of progress of the ethnic group, I'm afraid that the third punishment of annihilation will come early. It turned around and looked at the god's mount that had been hanging above its head again, feeling even more desperate. Why? Exclamation mark. Why do you do this to us? What did we do wrong? Maybe it's because the tribe is about to die. Anger arises from extreme despair and breaks through the imprisonment in its heart. It twisted its body, used its vocal organs with all its strength, and let out its first roar to the god. At the same time, screams full of fear came from not far away. The patriarch subconsciously turned his gaze to the direction where the exclamation came from. Bang. A dull sound sounded, and a tribesman whose body expanded to the extreme exploded point. Light yellow body fluids and various organ debris were evenly scattered in the air, raining down on the surrounding tribesmen like rain. Such a terrifying scene brought the panic atmosphere within the tribe to its peak. "Oh God. Did you see it?" Exclamation mark. The clan leader looked angrily at the god's mount in the sky and roared again, "Professor, there is a jellyfish that is behaving a little strangely." The moment the electronic synthesized sound sounded, the picture in the holographic projection instantly enlarged and settled on a significantly larger jellyfish. Lu Yongchang looked at the jellyfish in the picture that was twisting its body with some confusion and asked Lin Zile, "What does this mean? The prayer ceremony is not over yet, like." Lu Yongchang. Lin Zile looked confused at this time. He tried turning on the sound. It's still the sticky unbearable chuck and puff sounds. However, this time the voice was obviously much more powerful. "It's possible. It's paying respect to the gods." Lin Zile made a guess. There's no way. Before the language system is cracked, humans can't understand what these jellyfish want to express at all. Who can read the body language and expressions from a bunch of pale yellow things? Bang. The dull explosion interrupted the academician's thoughts. Seeing the body remains and body mucus flying in the sky, the expression on Lu Yongchang's face suddenly froze. The next moment, he realized what the problem was. Temperature. It's temperature. Titans. Daytime temperatures are already too hot for these jellyfish. Cool the temperature. Lu Yongchang said without any hesitation. "We must lower the surface temperature of Titan as soon as possible." 4. Current human civilization. There are many ways to reduce the surface temperature of the planet. However, considering the time and cost issues, Lu Yongchang decided to adopt the simplest and crudest solution: fleet smoke grenade volley. The moment the order is given, the fleet consisting of 500 large battleships began to move under Zero's control. Golden Crow, Zuanwu, White Tiger. This series of war-type starships have activated the secondary guns on the sides of the hull. The power of the antimatter reactor was slightly increased, and tens of thousands of smoke bombs were launched. The target of these smoke bombs is the area between the red giant sun and Titan. The distance of tens of millions of kilometers flies by in an instant. The explosion's fire flashed away, followed by thick clouds of white smoke. Under Zero precise control and calculation, the smoke generated after the smoke bomb explodes is an umbrella-shaped structure. As the best weapon against laser weapons, smoke grenades have always been the standing ammunition in the People's Alliance battleships. Nowadays, it has been developed for another use: a parasol, a giant umbrella that spans thousands of kilometers. The light from the sun is greatly blocked by this giant umbrella. But this is not enough. After all, Titan is a huge planet, and heat conduction is relatively slow. When the temperature starts to drop, it is estimated that there will not be many jellyfish left. Zero, dispatch a fleet of shipborne drones to drop liquid nitrogen in the area where Titan's jellyfish are located for emergency cooling. Numerous emergency cooling plans flashed through Lu Yongchang's mind, but he finally chose the most unpretentious one. Titan. As time went by, the orange-red fireball in the sky became more and more dazzling, and the temperature around it continued to rise. On the sea surface in the distance, wisps of fog rose, which was the methane seawater that was constantly vaporizing. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of the tribe members dying rang in the ears of the chief. It injured the swelling feeling in various parts of its body, raised its head with difficulty, and looked at the mount of the god hanging high above its head. At this time, it no longer had the strength to roar and roar. Just as it was preparing to face death in despair, it suddenly found that the bright sky had darkened. At the same time, the blazing orange-red fireball was left with only a faint outline. The cool feeling at that moment made these dying jellyfish breathe a sigh of relief. But the temperature around them did not drop too much, and the swelling and dryness continued to attack these fragile jellyfish. The gods have come to the world again. A cry came into the ears of the chief. Gods. It subconsciously raised its head and looked at the heavy sky. There were countless mounts of gods lined up in neat formations. They swept across the sky at a very fast speed. Just when the jellyfish were puzzled by the gods' actions, a drop of cold methane rain fell on the patriarch. Rain is rain. Miracle. This is a miracle. The stargazer's hoarse voice sounded in his ears. What followed was an unprecedented downpour. The cold methane rain quickly eliminated the heat on the surface of Titan Point, feeling the bloating and dryness that quickly disappeared. The patriarch cast his eyes to the sky again. The mounts of the gods were still hanging in their original positions, looking at them indifferently. This time, the patriarch slowly swung his body and sang a prayer. Thank the gods for their gift. It sighed from the bottom of its heart. Chapter 853, Level I, Subordinate Civilization. Drop. A crisp reminder sounded, and a message with a higher priority appeared on the holographic projection in front of Lu Yongchang. The moment he saw the content clearly, Lu Yongchang couldn't help but perked up. The sender is Meng Lu, a first-level academician. The message content is simple. The language system deciphering department has made all preparations for tentative contact. Scientific research work is roughly the same. Theoretical research requires experimental verification, and the deciphering of language systems also requires a large number of control samples. Where do you get the control sample? Very simply, civilized contact and exchanges between the two sides can produce a large number of control samples. Lu Yongchang, who knew this well, gave the order without hesitation. Landing ship, set off, get ready for first contact. At the suggestion of Lin Zile and other social academicians, Lu Yongchang cancelled the initial probe ship contact plan. In order to better implant the shadow of human civilization in the religious system of the jellyfish, the first contact will be a humanoid robot. After special modification, this robot has been stripped of various characteristics that indicate its identity as a robot. It may sound a bit difficult to pronounce, but it is actually easy to understand. In order to prevent the emergence of the uncanny valley effect, humanoid and humanoid robots will be deliberately designed to look less like humans. But the situation today is obviously different. This is the first contact between human civilization and jellyfish civilization. The first impression is always the deepest. It is obvious that the religious systems of these jellyfish already have the shadow of human civilization starships. If correction is not carried out, I'm afraid that in the mythical stories of future jellyfish civilization, the gods will all look like starships. Lu Yongchang didn't want to see such a scene. Titan. Under the gaze of the jellyfish, the detection ship that had been staying above the group quietly left. The departure of the god's mount undoubtedly caused quite a bit of chaos, but it didn't take long for the sudden commotion to be calmed down. A shuttle ship passed across the horizon and quickly landed directly in front of the ethnic group. Looking at the strange looking god mount, the jellyfish were filled with confusion, curiosity and panic. They don't know what a streamlined hull is, let alone how high-end technology these starships contain. They only know that this is the first time that gods have come to the earth, and it is also the first time that gods have responded to their prayers and requests. The shuttle ship's hatch slowly opened. A humanoid robot in formal attire slowly walked out of the hatch and stepped onto the wild land of Titan. At this moment, the only sounds left in the world were the howling of strong winds and the gurgling of methane rain. The jellyfish huddled together as much as possible, making as much room as possible for the shuttle and the robot. Until the robot made a series of familiar sounds, the prayers of the jellyfish. It's obvious, after playing the recorded prayer, the jellyfish's mental state improved a lot. In a slight commotion, a slightly larger jellyfish squeezed out of the group. Guji guji. It vibrated its vocal organs and asked the robot. The robot didn't speak. Under Zero's control, it turned around and retrieved various items that had been prepared from the shuttle ship. Stones, gravel, seawater, People's Alliance, small universe, Earth. Lu Yongchang calmed down and quietly looked at the scene of the chicken talking to the duck in the holographic projection. The progress bar of the language system cracking work is advancing little by little. Perhaps because the other party is saying repetitive prayers, the progress of the cracking work is not going smoothly. But it's not a big problem. Since its development, the People's Federation has come into contact with at least thousands of different civilizations, and the language system cracking department has also accumulated a lot of experience. Finally, when the deciphering progress was more than half over, some preliminary translated words gradually appeared in the holographic projection. God, respect, thank you. There are only a few keywords, but the specific meaning is still easy to guess it is nothing more than an expression of gratitude to human civilization. But the words that followed quickly became obscure. Forgive, exterminate, civilization, correction, ethnic group, extinction, request, thank you. The atmosphere in the command center gradually became solemn. Perhaps because enough sample data has been collected, the progress of cracking the language system has been visibly accelerated. The text in the giant holographic projection also quickly became complete. However, the atmosphere in the command center did not improve at all, and even became heavier. Yongchang stood up from his seat silently and sighed. The several-hour exchange came to an end, and he now had a general understanding of the history of Titan's jellyfish civilization. Logically speaking, this is a happy thing. But after learning the timing of the two world-destroying punishments, the entire command center fell into silence. The first punishment of annihilation was the extermination fishing before human civilization left the solar system. At that time, everyone believed that jellyfish had almost no intelligence and were just lower beings that relied on instinct. But now it seems that this was obviously a serious misjudgment. At that time, jellyfish had already evolved into highly intelligent individuals. It is precisely because of witnessing this scene that the jellyfishes gave birth to this deformed belief out of fear. As for the second punishment of extinction, judging from the time node and characteristics, it should be caused by the local war between the sweepers and the pastoral faction. The so-called Great Ablation is that gamma rays destroyed their genetic material. Perhaps because of their hard life, or perhaps because of the shielding effect of Saturn, they survived fortunately. And this more bizarre punishment of extinction, on the contrary, further strengthened the jellyfish's deformed belief. Move Titan into the microcosm, led by the megastructure engineering department. Taylor made a planetary climate macro control canopy device for it. The Sociology division will formulate the best development plan for it and let them get out of the ignorant age as soon as possible while ensuring their development potential. All material consumption before civilization enters the interstellar era will be borne by the Academy of Sciences. After the jellyfish enter the interstellar era, tell them all the truth, and if the other party agrees, they will be included in the level I subsidiary civilization. As the number of subsidiary civilizations increases, the Sociology division also makes corresponding level divisions for subsidiary civilizations. Before this, there was only one level I subordinate civilization of the Human Alliance, Nus civilization. Even Taladan civilization and Eugene civilization can only be classified as level second subordinate civilizations. As for those abandoned subordinate civilizations, sorry, they are level 3 subordinate civilizations. Chapter 854, The Edge of the Milky Way. With the coordinated work of a large number of engineering ships, Titan was covered with a shell. This is the so-called planetary climate macro control canopy device. Simply put, Titan at this time is actually a bit like the mother planet fortress left by the 10th Empire. On the day when the megastructure project was completely completed, under the order of LV Yongchang, Kuafu began to gradually increase. The power of the Grand Unified Field opened the entrance to the microcosm and swallowed Titan into it. So far, the Titan jellyfish relocation operation has been completely completed. Whether it is when constructing the planetary climate macro control canopy device or when moving Titan into the microcosm, various magnificent visions are inevitable. At this time, the advantage of the ignorant age is revealed. Everything can be pushed to the so-called will of God. The sky was distorted to a great extent, and the sun, Saturn and other celestial bodies disappeared one after another. Under the so-called will of God, it only caused a very short panic. After these visions, there was a global methane rainstorm that lasted for dozens of days. On the one hand, it was because the gaseous methane originally in the atmosphere liquefied rapidly after the temperature dropped. On the other hand, the human union supplemented it with a large amount of liquid methane from the outside world. At the moment when the rainstorm ended, The ocean that had almost shrunk into a lake grew several times or even dozens of times. The Kraken Sea almost covered all the surface areas of Titan. After accidentally harvesting a Titan, LV Yongchang's hope for the solar system was rekindled. Under his order, the fleet sent out hundreds of thousands of small probes. The purpose, of course, was to conduct the most detailed detection of every remaining planet in the solar system. What if there is other life? But the facts were not satisfactory. After human civilization, the jellyfish on Titan seemed to have exhausted all the luck of the solar system, except Titan. All planets were barren. Looking at the huge fireball that swallowed Mercury, Venus and the Earth in succession, LV Yongchang shook his head helplessly and issued the last order. The fleet set off again. This time, the fleet's target is the Milky Way Andromeda Galaxy Bridge. 100 years later, Earth calendar year 4655. The edge of the Milky Way. Accompanied by a wave of space-time fluctuations, a fleet of 500 starships appeared next to a desolate star system. The starships are bright and beautiful, and each one is as good as a brand new one. The armor made of dense hydrogen and the powerful force field attached to it are enough to resist the erosion of interstellar dust and cosmic radiation. This is the fleet of human civilization. To be precise, this is the vanguard of human civilization in the universe. This is already the edge of the Milky Way, and the interstellar matter is much sparser. Even the most common stars have become relatively rare. Further away is a huge galaxy bridge that spans the Milky Way and the Andromeda Galaxy. It is called a galaxy bridge, but it is actually not much different from the empty interstellar space just by naked eye observation. In the far distance of sight, that is, 2.54 million light years away, there is still a small spot of light. That is the destination of the first expedition of human civilization, the Andromeda Galaxy. Andromeda Galaxy, left, Milky Way, right. This is a binary star system formed by two yellow dwarf stars according to observations. There is also a gas giant planet and an Earth-like planet inside it. This will be the last supply point for the human fleet to embark on a 2.54 million light year expedition. According to the preset program, Zero controlled the fleet to sail into the star system. The bridge area of the Milky Way Andromeda Galaxy. A spherical detector with a surface as smooth as a mirror quietly suspended in the vast universe, detecting various space-time fluctuations around it. Its internal screening mechanism successfully screened out almost all space-time fluctuations created by stars and low-level civilizations. Suddenly, after being silent for a long time, it detected a strong space-time fluctuation above the warning line. After confirming several times, it sent an alarm message to a star cluster thousands of light years away. It was a high-density area with more than 50 stars. The distance between each star is about 5 light years. This is a very rare phenomenon in the edge of the Milky Way. Less than a month after the Tachyon information was transmitted, a strong space-time fluctuation came from the high-density star aggregation area. In the star system, where the human fleet is located. Under Zero's precise control, Kuafu left Chiao and easily swallowed the two planets into the small universe. But it's not over yet. Its ultimate goal is the two yellow dwarfs orbiting each other. This is the first time to capture a binary star system. Just as Kuafu approached one of the yellow dwarfs carefully, a piercing alarm sounded from the Tachyon radar. It was a very strong space-time fluctuation. There is no doubt that it was a trace of the activities of advanced civilizations. Judging from the waveform of the Tachyon radar, the speed of these unknown aircraft even reached 600 C. This series of characteristics directly triggered Zero's highest alarm. Almost at the same time, when the Tachyon radar sounded the alarm, the emergency wake-up program automatically started to execute. 1 hour later, in the human civilization microcosm, the Earth Command Center academicians who had just woken up from their hibernation chambers looked at the huge holographic projection in front of them with serious expressions. The display image of the Tachyon radar was filled with dense red marks. Each mark meant a starship with a speed of up to 600 C. According to preliminary estimates, the number of starships even exceeded 10,000. Level 6 civilization, LV. Yongchang looked a little solemn and squeezed out a few words from between his teeth. I didn't expect that we would encounter this kind of thing when we were about to leave the Milky Way. Fang Zhu's face was full of helplessness. Our luck is really bad. Luck? LV Yongchang shook his head and denied it. His eyes became deeper. I'm afraid it's not as simple as luck. For the past 100 years, the fleet has been traveling at a high speed of 800 c. The fleet has crossed countless star regions with dense star systems, but has not encountered any accidents. This means that we have not encountered any level 6 civilization in the long journey of tens of thousands of light years. This is an incredible thing in itself. Fang Zhu was stunned for a moment, and then he reacted to the meaning of LV Yongchang's words. You mean, where did the level 6 civilization in the Milky Way go? This question may have an answer soon. LV Yongchang looked at the light spot far away outside the porthole. A level 6 civilization is actually stationed in such a remote and sensitive area. This itself can explain some problems. Send an order. Sound the first level combat alert. Prepare for battle. Chapter 855. No response. Call first and talk later. A total of 10,000 war-type starships were quietly docked in the free area of the small universe point when the first level combat readiness alarm was sounded. These war-type starships were like lions waking up, and they began to show their prowess. The port gate on the side of the battleship opened quickly, and the transport ship and engineering ship carried a large amount of supplies and robots and headed to the designated area in an orderly manner under Zero's control point. Replenish fuel, replenish weapons and ammunition, conduct final inspection and maintenance of the functions of each module. The originally peaceful little universe became busy at this moment. At the same time, a large number of hibernating crew members were awakened and took shuttle ships to designated war-type starships. It only took less than 3 days from the time the alarm sounded to the fleet completing pre-war preparations. It may seem like a long time, but for a war with a 6th level civilization, 3 days is a completely negligible time. The central area of the small universe, the Earth Command Center. The current distance is 1000 light years. We have entered the 2nd level warning line. Immediately send attach iron communication request and warning message to the other party. Report. Attach iron message has been sent successfully. Lu Yongchang listened to the command coming from around him, gently raised his hand, and rubbed his temples, closed his eyes slightly and sighed. The person who came here is not good. Yes. Zhao Ziji on the side said with a heavy expression. It is now certain that the other party is coming for us. The purpose is not clear. Based on the current intelligence, it should be the time and space fluctuations caused by the fleet's sailing that attracted the opponent's attention. Lu Yongchang put down his hand, slowly opened his eyes, pondered for a moment, and then asked the holographic projection on the side, did the other party respond to the message? No response of any kind has been received yet. An electronic synthesizer sounded quickly. Point after hearing this, Lu Yongchang glanced at the display data in the touch iron radar. Not only did it not respond to the communication request, it did not even reduce the navigation speed or change the navigation direction. No more waiting. No matter what its purpose is, fight first. Lu Yongchang said with a cold look in his eyes. Sound the war alarm directly. Zhao Ziji looked solemn and immediately issued the order. The People's Alliance fleet has entered a state of war. The small space warship is on standby, waiting for the opportunity. Small outer space battleship, salvo of warp missiles. Calculate the current space-time node. Release the space-time trap. The scope of action is 1 light year. The order was given. The 500 battleships outside the small universe opened the port doors on the sides of the ships. Kuofu also increased the output power again, opening the door to the small universe point. Countless ship-based drones and floating artillery batteries swarmed out of it and flew quickly towards the outer reaches of the star system point. They will be the first line of defense point after the ship-based drones. There are strange shuttle-shaped devices. They have no attack capabilities, and their only function is to create a space-time trap that forbids curvature navigation. After leaving the mothership, these shuttle-shaped devices followed the shipborne drones and flew out of the star system point. According to Zero's planning calculations, they will create a moat outside this star system point. The huge throughput of the small universe makes the construction of defense projects extremely easy. In just A few hours, this desolate star system was transformed into an iron barrel by various forts and drones under Zero's control. The Golden Crow, Battleship, White Tiger Frigate, and Caillou, Planetary Fortress opened their missile silos one after another. Boom, boom, boom. The fire from the missile lasted for dozens of minutes. Clear inventory. The first round of missile salvos directly emptied the ammunition stocks inside these battleships and planetary fortresses. The densely packed curvature missiles disappeared directly into the visible universe after leaving a certain distance: 100 c, 500 c, 1000 c, 2000 c. Driven by the curvature engine, they rushed towards the enemy ship 1,000 light years away like mad dogs. The next moment, hanging above Kuafu, in the central area of the star system, in a gradually clear spherical space-time distortion structure, neatly arranged transport ships suddenly appeared. They sailed to each starship in an orderly manner to replenish supplies. After the supplies were replenished, the transport fleet turned back and disappeared into the spherical space-time structure. 1,000 light years away. Powerful space-time fluctuations swept across the empty universe. In the invisible universe at the speed of light, a huge fleet is sailing towards its destination without any cover. In the center of the fleet is a large battleship with a scale of 100,000 meters. It is undoubtedly the flagship of this fleet. A piercing siren sounded in the fleet. There was obviously a little confusion in this normally moving fleet. In the direction of the fleet, a group of missiles were heading straight towards them at a speed of up to 2000 c. The fleet did not exit the warp state. After a brief period of confusion, they quickly adjusted the formation of the fleet and launched an interception attack on the warp missile. They were deep thin black lines. These deep thin lines are not affected by the powerful fluctuations of space and time around them. They quickly broke away from the ship and faced the batch of warp missiles at extremely high speeds. A wandering planet was quietly flying in the empty universe. For some unknown reason, it broke free from the shackles of the star and set out on a long voyage alone. Its surface was filled with solid atmosphere. Without the heat of the star, it could not even have its own atmosphere. In the dark universe, it was almost impossible to be observed by the naked eye, like a ghost floating in the universe. Such wandering planets are actually very common in the universe. Two groups of strong space-time fluctuations moving in opposite directions broke the tranquility of this starfield. Following closely, there was a burst of explosions of unknown origin. These explosions appeared out of thin air in the dark universe, which seemed very strange. The wandering planet could not change its direction of travel. It slowly entered the area surrounded by the flames. Boom, boom. Almost at the same time, a violent explosion appeared on the surface of the wandering planet, bringing some light to its dark surface all year round. This powerful energy generated by the annihilation of positive and antimatter not only gave it a thin layer of atmosphere, but also changed its flight trajectory. It flew to the other side of the explosion area. The originally flat surface had a lot of deep holes that were visible to the bone. Suddenly, several almost invisible deep black lines crossed its surface. A moment later, this wandering planet was like being cut by a sharp knife, turning into several irregular fragments of different sizes. These fragments were quickly caught up by the flames of the explosion and became part of the flames in an unknown corner of the Milky Way. A wandering planet lost its life in an instant. This was just the prelude to the war of the 6th level civilization. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 856, Space Time Trap and Space Annihilation. 2 years later, Earth calendar year 4657. In the past 2 years, human civilization and that fleet have had several over-the-horizon wars. Unfortunately, no substantial harm was caused. The unknown fleet lost several insignificant ordinary warships, while human civilization lost some ship-based drones and floating turrets. But that doesn't mean there are no gains. At least human civilization can use this to find out the strength of the other party. People's Alliance Small Universe, Earth. Yongchang carefully analyzed the summary data in the holographic projection. So far, the enemy has come up with technologies like space rift, and space shield, but they don't seem to have mastered the space-time trap technology because the distance is too far. We cannot accurately judge the enemy's understanding of the theory of space and time. Just judging from the speed of curvature navigation, their understanding of space and time is not as good as ours, but this cannot be used as a criterion. After all, Kuafu's maximum sailing speed is only 800 c. If there are similar megastructure projects in the enemy fleet, it is understandable that the fleet can maintain a speed of 600 c. Yongchang pondered for a moment and then spoke again. Based on all the data, I think the opponent's strength should be at the peak of level 6. As soon as the words fell, the atmosphere in the command center suddenly became anxious. Since entering the 6th level civilization, human civilization has never had a war with a civilization of the same level point from the very beginning. It is a level 6 peak civilization. To say that I'm not anxious would be a lie, but we have a big advantage. Yongchang changed the topic. Theoretically, the other party should not have mastered the macrocosm technology. On the one hand, they do not know our specific military strength. Judging from the Tachan radar alone, the other party is likely to make a huge misjudgment. On the other hand, we have sufficient supplies to consume. As he spoke, Yongchang showed an interesting smile on his face. If the enemy saw tens of thousands of large, fully equipped warships suddenly appearing in a small star system, the expression would be very exciting. Right. In the Tachan radar, the extremely intense wave peaks finally reached the area near the star system. Activate the space-time trap. When this powerful space-time fluctuation was less than 1 light year away from the star system, Yongchang gave the order in a deep voice, but an invisible wave came from this key node in time and space point in just a few seconds. The calm space and time set off a raging tsunami. The next moment, accompanied by a strong fluctuation in space and time, a huge fleet was forced to appear in the dark universe. The enemy ships that could not cope with it directly exited the super-light curvature state. The detectors placed in this starfield early transmitted the observed images back to the Earth point with just one glance. Yongchang frowned, and the expressions on the faces of the academicians in the command center also became unnatural. The reason is simple. The construction style of these battleships looks so familiar. Each large or small battleship in the shape of a standard sphere is hovering quietly in the universe. The surface of the battleship is extremely smooth, without any protrusions or unnecessary structures. They are as beautiful as drops of water falling in the vast universe. Behind these spherical battleships, a silver-white planet with a diameter of more than 5,000 kilometers is particularly conspicuous. Megastructure project planetary fortress. Cleaner. Yongchang squeezed out a few syllables through his teeth with an ugly expression. The worst guesses came true. From the moment he discovered those 6th level civilizations, this speculation flashed through Yongchang's mind. Under normal circumstances, level 6 civilizations should gather in the center of the galaxy. After all, that is the place with the most abundant supplies. Only the central region of the Milky Way can support the terrifying consumption of a 6th level civilization. In a journey that lasted tens of thousands of light years, although human civilization did not go to the galactic center, it still traveled through most of the galaxy and passed through a large number of star gathering areas on the waypoint, but human civilization did not encounter a 6th level civilization there. Instead, it encountered a 6th level civilization in a ghostly place like the edge of the galaxy. This leaves only one possibility. These level 6 civilizations are driven by external forces. In other words, all the 6th level civilizations in the Milky Way were turned into subsidiary civilizations by the sweeper civilization. And the scene in front of me also confirmed this guess. In the picture, there was obvious confusion in the formation of this fleet. Obviously, they are very puzzled by this abnormal situation, where the curvature engine cannot work properly. Take advantage of his illness and kill him. Faced with such a great opportunity, Zhao Ziji on the side did not hesitate at all and directly issued the attack order. Attention. All units, space annihilation device operating at full power. All battleships, launch, space rift, at full power. Free fire. Repeat. Free fire. The outer reaches of an unnamed star system point in the vast and dark universe. There are some spindle-shaped devices scattered irregularly point next to these fusiform devices. There are also strange devices that resemble pyramids. These devices are so-called space annihilation weapons. Strictly speaking, it is the same weapon as the shuttle device responsible for opening the space-time trap. Usually, these two devices are used together. First, use the space-time trap to trap the enemy ship point, then use the space-time annihilation weapon to destroy the enemy ship point. Smooth. Done in one go. The moment the Fast Sun's order was issued, the majestic energy began to surge in these not small pyramid-shaped devices. The unstable space-time ocean became even more serious at this moment. Crack. A dark and deep crack was generated in this space-time, and it quickly spread to the surroundings just like the cracks that quickly extended on the glass in just over 10 minutes. A structure similar to a spider web was formed. As the power of the space-time annihilation device continued to increase, the coverage of this spider web structure became larger and larger, and soon spread to the surroundings of the spherical enemy ships that had not yet recovered. But, perhaps sensing something unusual, deep black shields appeared around these spherical warships, almost at the same time. The power of the space-time annihilation device reached its maximum. Wow. The peaceful space-time crumbled into countless fragments like a broken glass. The selected star field also turned into pure black at this moment. The attack successfully hit all enemy ships. P.S. Thanks to Jiang Yu Yongchang CO for sending the Great God certification *9! Thank you for your support. Chapter 857 Fatal Combo. In the vast universe, an extremely deep dark area suddenly appeared. Starlight from infinite distance fell into this broken space. It was like falling into a black hole, without any sound. This extremely dark space covers an area of 100 million kilometers. Since the universe is three-dimensional, a more accurate description is that it should be a spherical area of extreme darkness. The edge of the spherical area is very smooth, as if it was cut by an extremely sharp knife. Since no light can escape from it, and no light can be reflected from its surface, it will give people a strange sense of flatness, just by observing it with the naked eye, no matter from which angle it is observed. It is a standard circle. This beautiful space-time structure did not last too long. The self-healing performance of space-time was fully demonstrated at this moment. Its smooth and complete edges only lasted for a few seconds, before becoming rough. Then these rough edges began to extend inward. The spherical area caused by space annihilation was shrinking at a very fast speed. The edge of the nameless star system. The Golden Crow battleship, the White Tiger frigate, and the Chiao planetary fortress simultaneously entered a state of war. Inside the hull, the output power of dozens of antimatter reactors soared. Instantly, pure energy flowed into the space crack generation device set up in the head area of the ship along the energy path. At first, it was just a tiny deep crack. In the blink of an eye, it extended to both sides and became a huge crack of tens of kilometers in length. The next moment, this space crack was like a lightning bolt that struck a relatively small spherical battleship. When the space crack disappeared in the visible universe, its flight speed had exceeded 3000 c. The broken time and space gradually returned to flatness. The deep and dark spherical area had disappeared, and the starlight in the distance reappeared in this star field. More than 9,500 black spheres hovered quietly in the starry sky, without any movement. Yes, the sudden and unexplained combo just now directly destroyed nearly 500 starships of unknown civilization. Some of them were because the space shield could not be activated in time, and some were because the power of the space shield was too low and the shield generation device was overloaded. The dark black space shield slowly disappeared under the self-repair effect of time and space, and the spherical starship inside also revealed its true appearance. There was no damage on the surface of the silver-white spherical warship. This is normal. Facing the attack of space annihilation, the starships with damaged appearance have turned into a pot of broken atomic soup. As for the inside, there is no doubt that withstanding this level of attack is definitely a good test for the space shield generation device. Powerful space-time fluctuations came from these spherical starships. They started the curvature engine and tried to leave this area the moment space annihilation was launched. the space-time trap would automatically fail. Therefore, when time and space returned to normal, there was actually an extremely short gap. The unknown fleet discovered this gap and tried to forcefully enter the superluminal curvature state and break free from this space-time cage. But, do you think this combo is over, accompanied by strong space-time fluctuations? A space crack array with a speed of up to 3000 C roared in. The number is huge and conservatively estimated to be over 20,000. Not only that, under Zero's precise control, the space-time trap device started to operate again. Some waves continued to appear on the space-time ocean that had just returned to calm. Under the influence of space-time resonance, this wave is growing at a very fast speed. At this moment, there are only two choices left for the unknown fleet. First, forcefully enter the superluminal curvature state before the space-time tsunami is generated and escape from this space-time trap. But the consequences, in the case that the space shield cannot operate at full power, the fleet may suffer considerable casualties. Second, start the space shield at full power and resist the attack again. The price to pay is to continue to be trapped in this space-time trap. In just a moment, the unknown fleet made a choice. The space-time fluctuations generated by the curvature engine began to increase rapidly, and at the same time, a deep space shield appeared again around these spherical warships. Compared with the space shield last time, the space shield that appeared this time seemed much thinner. The next moment, the fleet disappeared in the visible universe. They tried to break through by force. TSK, in the human union microcosm, Zayoziji frowned slightly and said softly, "What a pity, Zero. Turn off the space-time annihilation device. There is no chance to use it." According to the original expectation of the command center faced with such an offensive space rift attack, the enemy ship will most likely choose to turn on the space shield at full power to resist this round of space rift attack. Once they do so, they will lose the opportunity to escape and be trapped in the space-time trap again. At the same time, the space annihilation device completes the second round of charging and releases the attack again. When space annihilation is about to end, space rift will appear again, and so on. Once the other party makes a wrong choice, they are likely to be trapped and die in this invisible time and space trap. I didn't expect them to be so decisive. The expression on Zayozige's face suddenly became serious. It seems that the other party's commander is not a good person. Yongchang nodded in agreement and issued the next order. Zero, activate the second space-time trap. Who said you can only set one trap? The second space-time trap is set at the very edge of the unnamed star system. This is also the combat area arranged in advance by the command center, backed by a star system with a steady stream of supplies and support from the small universe. The advantage is mine. In the superlight universe invisible to the naked eye, dark black thin lines landed lightly on the space shields of those spherical battleships at lightning speed. Yes, once the space rift is sent out, it cannot change its direction. Logically speaking, as long as the unknown fleet leaves the attack area as soon as possible, it can avoid this attack. But I can't stand it. The Academy of Sciences, which has always suffered from the fear of insufficient firepower, frantically upgraded the weapon systems of these warships. After making a breakthrough in basic theory, 500 warships blasted out the firepower of thousands of warships. This kind of super explosive firepower must come at a cost. After the first round of space rift attacks, these 500 warships briefly lost the ability to continue attacking. But does it matter? A new batch of battleships have poked their heads out of the entrance to the small universe located in the central area of the star system. Chapter 858, 4-dimensional jump. But when the space cracks fell lightly on the space shields, the shield loads in those spherical warships suddenly increased. Normally, this level of space cracks would not pose much threat to them. But now, having just suffered an attack of the level of space annihilation, and with a large amount of energy being drawn to the curvature engine, this can no longer be said to be a case of rain on a leaking roof. It is simply a knife in the wind, just a face-to-face. The shield generation devices of those smaller spherical warships declared a strike point in just a few seconds. The space shields surrounding the spherical warships began to slowly fade. Boom. 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 Continuous explosions and flames appeared in the starfield 0.6 light years away from the nameless star system. Each explosion of fire means the disappearance of an enemy ship. The explosion of fire quickly moved toward the vicinity of the nameless star system, forming a brilliant light belt in the dark universe. The fleet's idea was clear at a glance. After suffering a dumb loss when they just met, they tried to drag the rhythm of the war into close combat. After all, weapons of this scale of space annihilation can't be used on their own people, right? This was also expected by Liu Yongchang and Zhao Ziji. So, under Zhao Ziji's order, the second space-time trap was successfully activated. The unknown fleet, which was originally moving quickly, was once again forced to appear in the visible universe abruptly. It was visible to the naked eye that stepping into the same trap for the second time caused a lot of chaos in the fleet. There were also a lot of curses in the unknown fleet. At this moment, the fleet lost a batch of small warships again. The total number of the fleet has dropped to 6,000. Facing the 500 human warships close at hand, the commotion quickly subsided. As long as these 500 warships are dealt with, victory can be achieved. Not only the commander, but also the crew members thought so. So they cheered up again, and scientists began to work quickly. The space and time around the spherical battleship began to fluctuate constantly. They are trying to crack the law of space-time trap. At the same time, under the command of the commander, the unknown fleet launched an attack on the human fleet that was close at hand. 6,000 vs 500. The advantage is mine. Thick space cracks shot towards the warships of human civilization. Faced with a large number of attacks, the human warships only did one thing. Start the curvature engine. Based on the mastery of the space-time trap algorithm, although the curvature engine was greatly suppressed, it was still barely usable. In an instant, the speed of these 500 warships soared from 0 to 0.5 c. The extreme maneuverability of the curvature engine was fully revealed at this moment. Under Zero's control, these giant warships with a range of 80,000 to 90,000 meters dodged the space crack attacks from the enemy with great flexibility. When encountering an attack that cannot be dodged, a layer of black space shield will be generated instantly and accurately resist those space cracks with extremely high flying speeds. This fantastic scene deeply shocked the unknown fleet. When they found that the first round of attacks did not work, their offensive was extremely briefly paused. When they found that the space weapons were not effective, the unknown fleet decisively chose to change tactics. They gave up the seemingly powerful space weapons and turned to traditional kinetic weapons and energy weapons for attack. It must be said that this is indeed a wise decision. In this case, traditional gravity bombs and antimatter missiles have become the best choice. Gravitational bombs contain human warships, and large yield antimatter missiles consume and blast space shields in all directions. Raging gravitational waves bloomed at the edge of the star system, and the flames of positive and antimatter annihilation rose and fell one after another. It was from this moment that the 500 warships of human civilization began to suffer casualties under the control of dozens of gravity bombs. The overwhelming antimatter bombs successfully broke the composite shield system of a human warship. The armor made of dense hydrogen material was directly exposed in front of the enemy ship. The laser beam was guided directly to the surface of the dense hydrogen armor. The next moment, a beam similar to the material disintegration ray mercilessly bombarded the warship that lost its shield system. The dense hydrogen armor maintained by the strong interaction force was like soap encountering water, instantly turning into free hydrogen atoms and melting in the vast universe. After a short wait, the explosion fire belonging to human civilization briefly illuminated this cold starfield. It is impolite not to return the favor. Naturally, human warships will not blindly avoid being beaten. While waiting for the space rift device to charge, special antimatter missiles and black hole bombs were launched. They quickly approached the target enemy ship. Facing the attack of these kinetic weapons, the spherical warship once again deployed the space shield. But something strange happened. These antimatter missiles and black hole bombs suddenly disappeared into the visible universe at the moment they were about to touch the space shield. The next moment, there was an explosion of fire inside the spherical battleship. These attacks directly passed the shield system and the outer armor and directly bombarded the interior of the spherical battleship. Four-dimensional jump. The study of the natural clean bottle structure of the microcosm has enabled the Academy of Sciences to successfully master a more stable clean bottle structure point. Just as Lin Yangnian proposed at the time. This directional clean bottle structure that allows small objects to pass through was used by academician Yevgeny on kinetic weapons. Everyone uses kinetic weapons, which is fair. Earth, facing an all-round encirclement and suppression with 10 times its own strength. Human warships with stronger maneuverability and stronger attack methods also seem to be somewhat powerless to resist. The moment the first Golden Crow battleship exploded, LV Yongchang and Zaozuji, who had basically figured out the strength of the opponent's fleet, could not sit still. Enemy warships exploded. Okay. Our warships exploded? No. Open the small universe port. All members of the fleet attack, and the battle will be quick and decisive. Leave the enemy flagship and planetary fortress. The landing combat team will set off immediately to conduct a comprehensive cleanup of the enemy flagship and planetary fortress. LV Yongchang gave the order with a gloomy look. I want to see what the purpose of this silent fleet is. The war has continued to this point, and the other side has not responded to the communication request of human civilization. Chapter 859. Clearance ahead. Jump allowed. The war has gradually entered a white-hot state, but the two sides have not exchanged even a single punctuation mark of information. This is an extremely abnormal phenomenon. Human civilization has never encountered such an inexplicable war without any communication. The enemy came from thousands of light years away. As soon as they met, he got a big slap in the face, but the other party didn't believe this evil yet. While launching a desperate attack, he also refused all communication. Let's not talk about what the unknown civilization that was beaten thought. At least, all the academicians and command staff in the command center are confused. Who am I hitting? Who is hitting me? Why fight? Confused and confused. The movements in the hands of the People's United Fleet did not relax at all. The moment the command was confirmed, the output power of the antimatter reactor inside the small universe traction platform, Kuafu, began to increase sharply. The strength of the kite string began to increase, pulling the small universe closer to the big universe little by little. The small spaceport rebuilt and reinforced by the Academy of Sciences also gradually became clear. A black sphere with dots of light shining on its surface suddenly appeared in the universe. The next moment. Huge warships with various colored signal lights flashing on their surfaces one after another drilled out of the black sphere and slowly sailed outside the star system. The first one to show up was the conventional fleet composed of Golden Crow, White Tiger, and Zuanwu. Tens of thousands of warships with a length of more than 80,000 meters appeared together. This is an extremely shocking scene. Just like a huge boulder dropped on a calm lake, under the action of the curvature engine, powerful fluctuations in space-time unabashedly dispersed outside the star system. Next, there are 50 Titan Mother ships, although the number is far less than those of conventional battleships. The Titan mothership's scale of more than 100,000 meters still gives people a great sense of shock. Is at the end? Of course not. Not only did the space-time fluctuations in the small universe port not attenuate, it even became stronger. 5 small silver-white dots appeared in the small universe port. As soon as these 5 small dots appeared, they enlarged at an extremely fast speed. In just an instant, they revealed themselves in full view of the universe. There were 5 silvery white planets, with their surfaces covered with a layer of dense hydrogen armature. Our planetary fortress array. In just a few minutes, more than 10,000 battleships came from the small universe to the large universe. After a short wait, these more than 10,000 battleships, driven by curvature engines, unabashedly sailed to the outer reaches of the star system. The outer region of the unnamed star system. The unknown fleet is struggling to deal with the weird kinetic weapons issued by the United Fleet. These kinetic energy weapons equipped with 4-dimensional jump technology and ignoring shields and armor really shocked this unknown civilization. But the situation of the war did not change significantly because of the emergence of these weapons. There is no other reason than that human civilization has too few troops, at least at this moment. Human civilization has too few exposed warships. This is also the tactic that the unknown civilization is preparing to use more than 5,000 warships. to forcibly destroy 499 warships of human civilization, just as they were preparing to implement this tactic. A powerful wave of space-time came from inside the star system. The Tachyon radar is almost burned out. No, not just Tachyon radar. The commander of the unknown fleet looked at the sudden appearance of 10,000 warships on the radar and felt that his thinking organ was about to burn. Didn't it say there were only 500 warships? Where did this battleship come from? In the outer area of the star system, there was originally a fiery battlefield, but because of this inexplicable appearance of the fleet, there was also a moment of calm. The offensive launched by the unknown fleet stopped for half a beat. The next second, this hard-won piece was torn to pieces by more powerful artillery fire. Before the fleet arrives, the artillery fire goes first. The moment hundreds of thousands of space rifts and curvature missiles appeared, this inexplicable war seemed to be destined to end. The spherical battleship hovers in the universe. Thin and dense dark black threads constantly appeared around the smooth hull and quickly separated from the hull and disappeared into the visible universe. The target of these space weapons is not the warships of human civilization, but the densely packed kinetic energy weapons around them. Although the effect of space rifts on human fleets is not ideal, it is still very good to deal with these curvature missiles whose sailing speed is limited by the space-time trap. Boom, boom, boom. The explosion fire of the curvature missile kept lighting up in the dim universe, illuminating the edge of the star system that should have been dim and cold like daylight. Good times don't last long. When gravity bombs and black hole bombs entered the scene, this evenly matched offensive and defensive situation took a turn. A violent white light flashed, and a large amount of energy was instantly transformed into a powerful gravitational field. With the structure of the spherical battleship itself coupled with its own space shield, theoretically speaking, it is difficult for gravity bombs and black hole bombs to cause effective damage to it. But who said these weapons were released against enemy warships? Under the influence of gravity bombs and black hole bombs, the flight trajectory of the space rift has greatly deviated. This also allowed a large number of warp missiles to successfully approach the enemy ship. Even with all the defensive measures, the unknown fleet is decreasing at an alarming rate, with mobility greatly limited, armor and shields difficult to take effect, and active interception measures affected. After a round of salvos, the number of unknown fleets has dropped to 1,000. At this time, the huge fleet that suddenly appeared also arrived at the front battlefield. Faced with the sudden reversal of the situation, the unknown fleet still did not respond to the continuous communication requests of human civilization. They did not even retreat at all, and took the lead in charging against the firepower of tens of thousands of warships. They fought with great momentum despite the great disadvantage. Human civilization expressed great respect for this fearless spirit and responded quickly. The second round of artillery salvos. What? Close combat? Are you kidding me? With such a big advantage, I will fight you in close combat. This starfield has also fallen into chaos. Gravitational bombs, black hole bombs, and space rifts. These silent attacks completely disrupted the time and space of this starfield. Extreme celestial bodies such as micro black holes are constantly annihilated and created at the same time. It can be said that this starfield has become a place full of crises, not to mention low-level civilizations. Even if it is replaced by human civilization at the peak of level 5, it cannot escape from this chaotic starfield unscathed. The huge gravitational fluctuations even began to affect the two nearby stars. Their orbits have changed slightly. According to Zero's simulation calculations, even if the war is stopped at this time, the two stars will continue to approach under the action of gravity and eventually collide, forming a small supernova explosion. While issuing saturation firepower coverage, the side port gates of the Golden Crow, Battleship, and White Tiger destroyer quietly opened. Millions of shipborne drones swarmed out of them. Driven by the curvature engine, they mixed in the gaps between various artillery fires and drove quickly towards the target. In the case of being unable to protect itself, the unknown fleet did not notice these small drones approaching gradually. Boom. When These shipborne drones successfully approached the enemy flagship and planetary fortress. A fierce explosion and fire broke out instantly, directly submerging the enemy flagship and planetary fortress. Under the command of the command center, all curvature missiles and gravity bombs were detonated at the same time. The raging gravity and the aftermath of the explosion completely cleared all kinds of attacks from the enemy ships. An order was issued from the Human Union microcosm and received by these shipborne drones. Clear ahead. Allow jump. Chapter 860 Seizing control permission. The moment the order was issued, the antimatter engine inside the shipborne drone began to overload. As time and space began to distort, the structures of extremely small clean bottles gradually became clear, and the hull of the shipborne drone began to shake violently. The sequelae of the engine overload operation have begun to gradually appear. The entrance of the clean bottle is set in the narrow cabin inside these drones. A humanoid war robot was instantly activated, and while the head sensor flashed a red light, it jumped into the entrance of the clean bottle in front of it without hesitation. The next second, the flames of the explosion came from the engine room of the shipborne drone, and the leaked antimatter directly destroyed the drone. But it's not a big problem. Its mission has been completed. Because the specific structure of the enemy ship is not clear, the use of 4-dimensional jumps in interstellar boarding battles is actually quite dangerous. The landing point is likely to appear in some unexpected places, for example, inside the deck, such as inside the antimatter reactor. Therefore, the interstellar boarding battle using jump technology is a real saturation invasion operation. Millions of drones sent more than 1 million war robots to different areas of the target ship, but a strange space-time fluctuation came from the interior of the planetary fortress. Suddenly, a war robot that was 2 meters tall and covered with a layer of star gold carbonine armor appeared on the deck. Short distance single jump technology is still unstable, especially in a battlefield with extremely obvious gravitational disturbances. The stability of the jump is greatly affected. Therefore, the posture of this robot when it appeared was not good. It directly smashed on the hard deck. Under the collision of the hard armor and the deck, a series of sparks even appeared. It quickly adjusted its posture and automatically deployed various weapon systems and sensors on its body. After confirming that there was no danger around, it slowly stood up and looked around. This is a closed space without any trace of life. When its eyes swept across a wall, its movement paused slightly. In the wall, a robot that had stopped running was embedded. Typical jump failure case. Under the influence of chaotic gravity, the jump depth data showed abnormal conditions. It quickly scanned the area where it was located and uploaded all the data to the optical computer terminal on the Earth. The analysis results came out. It was lucky and jumped directly into an insignificant small control room. Although the specific purpose of this control room was unclear, it did not affect its execution of commands under Zero's control. It quickly came to a wall with various complex devices. Then, it stretched out its palm and covered the port on the wall. A large number of silver white nanorobots drilled out from the gap in the center of its palm and poured into the port. Earth. In the huge holographic projection of the command center, lines of text were flashing quickly. The jump has been completed. The number of remaining war robots: 14,311. Among the millions of war robots, only more than 14,000 successfully completed the 4-dimensional jump. This war loss rate is terrifying. Correction: 11,132. Correction: 9613. Before everyone could breathe a sigh of relief, the numbers in the holographic projection began to jump rapidly. It was obvious the landing point of these war robots was not very ideal, and they were beaten into scrap metal by the internal defense devices as soon as they appeared. In the end, under LV Yongchang's nervous gaze, the number stabilized at 182.137 robots survived inside the planetary fortress, and 45 survived in the flagship. The enemy planetary fortress port has been successfully connected, and the firewall is being passed. Zero's computing power utilization rate began to increase rapidly. The 4-dimensional optical brain installed in the core area of Earth also flashed like a neon light. Parsing successful. The highest control permission has been successfully obtained. The ship's life support system has been shut down. Database data is being migrated. LV Yongchang, who had been tense, subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. 0, who has a quasi 7th level civilization computer, did not disappoint him. In just a few minutes, 0 seized the control rights of the enemy planetary fortress and flagship. After a brief thought, looking at the communication link that was still running normally, a magical idea came to LV Yongchang's mind. 0. Try to attack the opponent's command center, the battlefield on the edge of the nameless star system. At the moment when 0 successfully seized the highest control permission, this hot battlefield suddenly fell into silence. All enemy ships stopped attacking and opened the hatches on the surface of the ship. One by one, shipborne drones carrying war robots drove towards these hatches at high speed. The battlefield cleaning work began. Successfully invaded the enemy's command center. Trying to obtain higher permissions, migrating civilization database data, looking at the database data of the other civilization being continuously transmitted to his side. LV Yongchang's eyes suddenly showed a touch of joy. He just wanted to make a try, but he never expected that it would succeed. How did such a civilization become a level 6 civilization? Just as he was thinking, an alarm sounded in the command center. Warning. Communication link has been interrupted. Database data transmission has been interrupted. We have been discovered. LV Yongchang shrugged, with a faint smile on his face. It should be that the alarm was triggered when obtaining higher level permissions. 0. Immediately start preliminary screening of the acquired data. Prioritize the search for information related to this war. Received. The moment the electronic synthesized sound sounded, a large amount of translated information was presented to the academicians. PS. Thanks to Smiling Che for the great health care. Big Brother is awesome. Chapter 861. Grazing the Galaxy. The information in the holographic projection gradually became detailed, and the atmosphere in the command center became solemn again. The joy brought by the victory in the war was quickly diluted. According to the data obtained by 0, this is a complex formed by several level 6 civilizations. The reason why it is not called an alliance is very simple. It is a complex formed by subordinate civilizations, and it does not have its own decision-making power, and it is not worthy of the title of alliance at all. If you have to make an analogy, this civilization is a bit like those subordinate civilizations abandoned by human civilization in the Kepler 452 starfield. If those subordinate civilizations are combined together to form a huge civilization complex. As for who is the main civilization behind them, although it is not clearly shown in the data, the various characteristics revealed have clearly presented the answer to LV Yongchang and others. The sweeper civilization. Like the original Botha civilization, this civilization complex is also deeply influenced by the thought stamp technology of the sweeper civilization. The absolute obedience and worship of the sweeper civilization greatly restricted the creativity of these level 6 individuals, but created a fearless cannon fodder force. This just explains why this fleet launched a charge despite facing a huge disadvantage, and also explains why their combat power is weak. Even more than the Botha civilization, their warships were even directly given by the sweeper civilization. According to the information, these spherical warships should be obsolete products when the sweeper civilization was still at level 6. It's just a batch of antique equipment. Fang Zhu, who was standing aside, looked at the information in front of him and sighed in a low voice. No wonder their combat effectiveness is so low. By the way, is the sweeper civilization so shabby? Why not make some adaptable weapons and equipment for them? In response to Fang Zhu's question, LV Yongchang raised his hand and touched his nose with a strange look on his face. Is there a possibility such weapons and equipment are enough in the Milky Way, and to some extent, the human union also does this? Fang Zhu, the historical data about this civilization has not been fully translated. LV Yongchang explained softly, but we can still confirm one piece of information. In this civilization complex, there are 7 intelligent creatures of different races. Common sense, these are 7 level 6 civilizations. LV Yongchang sighed. After the 10th Empire left, these are probably all the level 6 civilizations born in the Milky Way. In theory, except for them, the highest combat power in the Milky Way is only the level 5 civilization. Fang Zhu subconsciously took a breath of cold air. Then, wouldn't they be? LV. Yongchang looked at the historical information of the civilization complex gradually presented in the holographic projection, and his expression became more and more serious. Shepherd, this is the name of this civilization complex point, of course. This is the result of the free translation provided by 0 Point judging from its historical data. LV Yongchang does not think there is anything wrong with this name. Shepherd, the object of herding, is the advanced civilization in the entire Milky Way point. Yes, this is a task assigned to this civilization complex by the sweeper civilization, herding the Milky Way. To be more precise, their target of herding is the civilization in the Milky Way that is about to be promoted, or has just been promoted to level 6 point according to the order of the sweeper civilization. They need to take all the level 6 civilizations in the Milky Way as subordinate civilizations to strengthen their own strength point. In this way, they can achieve all-round control of the Milky Way point. What, unwilling, under normal circumstances, which civilization that has just been promoted to level 6 can withstand the attack of a civilization complex with a sweeper battleship? At the beginning, there were only 2 member civilizations in Shepherds. Let's take them with civilization number 1 and civilization number 2. After the 10th Empire left, these 2 civilizations took the lead in mastering part of the space-time theory and were promoted to level 6 civilization, becoming the well-deserved local emperors of the Milky Way point. Of course, the good times did not last long. After the sweeper civilization arrived in the Milky Way, it directly took them as subordinate civilizations. This is also the routine operation of the sweeper civilization after arriving in a galaxy point under the command of the sweeper civilization. Civilization number 1 and civilization number 2 began to herd the Milky Way point. When they found that civilization number 3 had mastered the basic space-time theory, they took the warships given by the sweeper civilization and forcibly took it under the command of shepherds. This goes back and forth until today. As for how to judge whether a civilization has mastered the basic space-time theory, it's very simple. The degree of mastery of curvature. In other words, it is the navigation speed of the civilization point. Once the navigation speed exceeds 100 c, that is, mastering the 3rd level curvature, their early warning system will be triggered. Over a long period of time, 7 level 6 civilizations have appeared in the Milky Way points due to the existence of shepherds. These 7 level 6 civilizations eventually became subordinate civilizations of the sweeper civilization. What about us? Billin's confused voice came. We became a level 6 civilization more than 900 years ago. During this period, the fluctuations of the level 3 curvature spread throughout the entire territory. Recently, we have mastered the level 4 curvature technology, not to mention the fluctuations in space and time caused by this. Why haven't we encountered these shepherds? It's very simple. LV Yongchang reached out and clicked on a trivial piece of information in the holographic projection. They received other tasks. Shepherds began to guard the galaxy bridge in 2600 of the Earth calendar. Do you remember this time? Billin was slightly stunned and then murmured in a low voice, the tail-cutting plan was successfully implemented. To be precise, it was the time when the sweepers and the pastoral sect just ended the war. LV Yongchang corrected. Now, it seems that the sweeper civilization has probably won this small-scale war and seized some 2-dimensional fragments. Whether it is on-site research or sending 2-dimensional fragments back to the mother civilization, they need a relatively stable research environment. Shepherds also got the task of guarding the galaxy bridge. By chance, human civilization has also gained 1,000 years of development time. LV Yongchang's eyes were deep, and he turned his head to look at the rich microcosm outside the porthole. Until we launched the expedition plan. When we arrived at the edge of the galaxy bridge, the curvature fluctuations of the fleet's navigation attracted their attention. Whether it was the order to guard the galaxy bridge or the mission to herd the Milky Way, it prompted the shepherds to take action against us. Chapter 862. There was silence in the command center of Earthpoint. Whether it was the information in the holographic projection or LV Yongchang's words, everyone was deeply aware of a problem. We can't stay in the Milky Way, Fang. Zhu stood up from his seat suddenly and said to LV Yongchang in a strong tone, "We don't know whether the Shepherd has reported our information to the sweeper civilization. If the sweeper knows of our existence, then the original tail-cutting plan will be completely in vain. Yongchang, the fleet must set off as soon as possible." Hearing Fang Zhu's words, LV Yongchang fell into deep thought point. Although human civilization has become a quasi 7th level civilization, for the sweeper civilization, I'm afraid it's just a giant bug point. But, academician Fang, calm down. LV Yongchang shouted in a deep voice, things haven't gotten that bad yet. After more than 2000 years of development, with the cultural integration of a large number of subordinate civilizations, the manufacturing style of human civilization has changed to a great extent. In theory, the sweeper civilization should not recognize us. What's more, after the two-dimensional fragments are gone, I don't think the sweepers will waste time looking for human civilization. LV Yongchang's words slightly calmed down some of the commotion in the command center. However, having said that, he did not reject Fang Zhu's proposal. He pondered for a moment and quickly estimated the existing supplies in the microcosm. 0. Clean up the battlefield as quickly as possible. Open the microcosm port to the maximum extent, and move the 2 yellow dwarf stars to the microcosm as soon as possible. After the order was issued, looking at the engineering ship that began to get busy in the holographic projection, a hint of worry flashed in LV Yongchang's eyes. Escape from the Milky Way. Is there no sweeper civilization in the Andromeda galaxy? Judging from the strength of the sweeper civilization, the probability of this happening is not high. However, at this point, whether for better development or to avoid the attack that may come soon, leaving the Milky Way has become the best choice for human civilization. Therefore, even though he knew that there might be an abyss ahead, Lu Yongchang could only issue this order with an unknown outcome. After completing all material collection work, the fleet will set off immediately. The black hole at the center of the Milky Way, a planet with no rotation and an extremely smooth surface, quietly floats near the black hole, and the strong gravity of the black hole does not seem to have any effect on it. Inside the planet, Sir Shepherd sent a message. The light curtain composed of materialized light automatically unfolded in front of Sweeper 9527, showing the information from the subordinate civilization. Shepherd, Sweeper 9527 raised one of his tentacles and gently moved it on the light curtain a few times. A civilization with microcosmic technology has appeared in the Milky Way. Sweeper 9527's eyes were full of surprise, and he stood up from his seat. How can a level 7 civilization appear in this damn place? It carefully flipped through the information in the light screen. Reviewing this low-level war, it looked at the light screen in front of it with some doubts, and murmured in a low voice, "Why does the design style of this civilization feel a little familiar?" While speaking, its external memory storage device began to flash continuously. It was searching its own memory. Soon, it found the answer. The design concept of these warships is somewhat similar to that of the human civilization that was destroyed before, but that was just a destroyed level 4 civilization. It should be just a coincidence, right? How could a level 4 civilization develop to such an extent after such a short period of time? It shook its head and put this incredible idea behind it. Sweeper 9527 waved his tentacles in boredom and gave a conclusion. They are just some crude space weapons. The only dimension involved is the basic short distance jump technology. It should be a lucky 6th level civilization. That's normal, sir. That small universe. This is not a technology that a 6th level civilization can possess. The subordinate next to him carefully reminded his boss. Sweeper 9527 glanced at the subordinate next to him. You've been to too few galaxies. Due to various reasons, some small universes will briefly intersect with the large universe. Most of them are separated from the large universe, and a small part is, forget it. What's the point of telling you this? You just need to know that this situation is not uncommon. Some level 6 civilizations can pick up small universes with smaller mass, which is not uncommon. The basic short distance jump technology is probably inspired by the overlapping area of the small universe and the large universe. In short, this is normal. Sweeper 9527 repeated it again, and swiped the light curtain again, to look at the result of the war. Suddenly, a rare look of astonishment appeared on Sweeper 9527's face. They actually seized the control of the flagship of Shepard. Sweeper 9527's expression became serious. Are they a silicon-based civilization? It couldn't help but think of a war. No, not a war. To be precise, a small-scale friction point. The silicon-based civilization whose computing power greatly crushed the Sweeper civilization once became a psychological shadow for Sweeper 9527. Silicon-based civilization, you mean the 10th? The subordinate beside him asked. Yes. Sweeper 9527 waved his tentacles impatiently and interrupted his subordinate's words directly. But I heard that they have left this galaxy group a long time ago, and they should have nothing to do with this civilization because of some bad memories. He suddenly felt a little annoyed in his heart. Why didn't the Shepard discover this civilization before? It is possible they have been hiding in the small universe. The subordinate, who was afraid of touching bad luck, deliberately lowered his voice and answered hesitantly. It's possible, however. Shepard seriously neglected his duty and even lost 10,000 warships. He must be punished. Sweeper 9527's tone became stern. Deduct 80%. No, 90% of the civilization contribution value. Okay. The subordinate quickly wrote down the order on the light screen in front of him and asked again. That level 6 civilization seems to want to leave the Milky Way through the galaxy bridge. We have to chase. Sweeper 9527 glared at his subordinate fiercely. What are you chasing? The two-dimensional fragments have been sent to the mother civilization. Before receiving new orders, we just have to guard the Milky Way node. Honestly, if the pastoral faction comes to make trouble again, can you bear the responsibility? P.S. Thanks to D. Shyanai who likes Heather for sending the king of gifts. Big Brother is awesome. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 863. Blame it on others. No. Hearing the words of Cleaner 9527, the subordinate's face changed slightly. He waved his tentacles repeatedly and hurriedly denied it. Are you kidding me? How could a position like this be able to shoulder such a huge responsibility? If the pastoral faction is really allowed to destroy the layout of the mother civilization's nodes in the galaxy, let alone it, not even the Sweeper 9527 can bear this responsibility. Cleaner 9527 did not pay attention to the denials of his subordinates. It just stared blankly at the light curtain in front of it, with several tentacles waving unconsciously around it. It can be easily seen from the constantly flashing external memory storage device that its thinking organ is very active. The subordinate next to him carefully leaned aside, fearing to disturb Cleaner 9527's thinking process. Cleaner 9527 was extremely confused. Just let this civilization go to the Andromeda galaxy. This is just a level 6 civilization. When will the majestic Sweeper civilization be afraid of a small 6th level civilization? In its memory, there has never been a civilization that could swagger and leave as if nothing happened after attacking the Sweeper civilization. To put it mildly, this is just something wrong with the Sweeper's galaxy branch. To put it more seriously, this even involves the face of the Sweeper's civilization. If the mother civilization knew about this, it probably won't end well. At least it won't want to leave this remote and poor place. But here comes the problem. This civilization behaves very much like a silicon-based civilization in war. Under normal circumstances, a small 6th-level silicon-based civilization is not worthy of its attention. But this is the Milky Way. According to the inference of the mother civilization, the silicon-based civilization named the 10th Empire was most likely born in the Milky Way. What if there is any relationship between these two civilizations? His Cleaner 9527 trembled slightly and quickly gave up the original thought in his mind. It doesn't matter if you fight. It doesn't matter if you don't fight. Cleaner 9527 secretly complained in his heart and became even more angry at Herder, what do you think you are doing to provoke this civilization? Forget it if you provoke me, you can still report the results of the war. Don't you know that all log records of each branch will be uploaded to the parent civilization regularly? Isn't this just looking for trouble for it? The more I think about it, the angrier I get. The more I think about it, when I step back, the more I lose point. What did it do wrong? It just wants to stay in the black hole area of the galactic center and complete its own mission. Well, let it take the blame. Defense. The angry voice of Sweeper 9527 suddenly sounded. Deduct all the civilization contribution points of Herder for me. The subordinates on the side looked at Cleaner 9527 blankly and did not react for a while. Didn't you hear what I said? Cleaner 9527 looked at the subordinates around him with an unfriendly expression. I understand. The subordinate hurriedly called up a light screen and changed the original order, looking at the punishment for Herder on the light screen. Sweeper 9527 nodded with satisfaction. Then it got into trouble again. How to deal with this troublesome civilization. It raised its tentacles and unconsciously moved the light curtain in front of it. In the light curtain, there is a simulated route connecting the Milky Way and the Andromeda Galaxy. Looking at the icon of the Andromeda Galaxy, Sweeper 9527 felt his eyes light up, and an idea suddenly arose in his heart. Inform the Andromeda branch that there is a level 6 civilization that has escaped from the Milky Way under the pursuit of the Herder and is currently fleeing to the Andromeda Galaxy. This civilization is suspected of having a small universe of unknown origin and basic river navigation capabilities. Please make sure they intercept it. The subordinate on the side glanced at his superior in disbelief. This passing the blame. Seeing the look that Sweeper 9527 was looking at him, his subordinates quickly edited a message and sent it to the Andromeda Galaxy. After confirming it was correct. After a short wait, a new light curtain automatically unfolded. Sir. The subordinate glanced at the information on the screen and looked at Cleaner 9527 with some embarrassment. The Andromeda branch sent an inquiry. They asked us why we didn't do it ourselves. Cleaner 9527's face turned dark when he heard this. Do it yourself. If it can do it on its own, will it be the Andromeda branch's turn to do it? After pondering for a moment, it gave its answer. The Pastoral faction is very likely to launch another attack on the nodes of the Milky Way. The Milky Way branch needs to be located in the galactic center area. Ask them if the node in the galaxy is destroyed, can they shoulder this responsibility? If it can afford it, the galaxy branch can take action to solve this problem. The subordinate looked at his superior with a stiff expression. These words. Why does it sound familiar? What are you doing standing still? Cleaner 9527 glared at it. Why don't you send the message over quickly? If there is a delay, can you bear the responsibility? Subordinate Laniakia Supercluster Hydra Centaurus Supercluster. Giant attractor. A large fleet with a dark grey surface quietly traveled in this dangerous area with complex gravity. The various powerful radiations and gravitational fluctuations of extreme celestial bodies around it could not affect it at all. The shape of the warship is similar to a cylinder on the surface of these cylinders, which are almost smooth. There are also lines of strange shapes which form a strange symbol. It is a symbol evolved from the structure diagram of silicon atoms. It is the symbol of the silicon-based alliance. And its unique cylindrical hull further proves its identity. The leader civilization of the silicon-based alliance, the 10th Empire. In the center of the fleet, a huge starship composed of several cylinders stacked together under the reflection of orange lights. Thick orange fog slowly lingered in the huge space. Suddenly, the fog quickly dispersed, revealing several huge creatures over 50 meters high. Very similar to the shape of the starship. The body shape of these creatures is similar to that of a cylinder. At the bottom of the cylindrical trunk, which is more than 30 meters high, are dozens of tentacles that are 20 meters long. Under the movement of these tentacles, these giant creatures slowly float in the orange mist. In a floating posture. Strong electromagnetic waves echoed in the ship. Failed again. No four-dimensional cavitation was found near the giant attractor. One of the cylindrical creatures raised its tentacles and pressed a few times on the tall device beside it, and a projection interface similar to a holographic image appeared in the orange mist. The dimensional upgrade experiment also failed. Although we can understand the fourth dimension through various devices, that is not the whole picture after all. If you want to complete the dimensional upgrade, the four-dimensional cavitation is indispensable. Chapter 864 Galaxy Leapfrog. Another cylindrical creature asked its own question. What should we do? The Alliance has searched all possible areas of the Laniakea supercluster, where four-dimensional bubbles may exist, but, continue the expedition. Accompanied by a new electromagnetic wave, the orange mist dispersed again, and a taller intelligent creature floated out of it. The Empire has decided to restart the Galaxy Leapfrog plan, and move towards the Centaurus cluster and the Hercules supercluster. Follow the Hercules Corona Borealis wall, and continue to search for four-dimensional bubbles. The sweeper civilization can find four-dimensional bubbles, so can we. The electromagnetic wave slowly dissipated, and the interior of the starship returned to silence point. The flow rate of the orange-yellow mist gradually slowed down, until it stagnated. The tall cylindrical intelligent creatures also disappeared in the thick fog again. For a long time. As a ray of light flashed, the space-time around the giant attractor was strongly distorted. In the fierce flash, this huge fleet has disappeared without a trace. At the same time, human civilization has officially entered the Milky Way Andromeda Bridge area and embarked on an expedition to the Andromeda Galaxy. In the vast universe, a small fleet consisting of 500 starships quietly sailed in the silent darkness. The starlight from the infinite distance was extremely dim and could not illuminate the way forward for this fleet. 1 year, 2 years. Time passed bit by bit. For a quasi 7th level human civilization, the cross-galaxy voyage is extremely long and boring. The surrounding scenery has hardly changed, and only artificial intelligence like Zero will not get tired of this boring journey. Earth calendar year 5303. For the first time, the fleet exited the superluminal curvature navigation state. The curvature engine of Kuafu malfunctioned. Not only Kuafu, under the invisible sharp blade of time, more or less malfunctions occurred inside the more than 500 escorting starships under Zero's control. The small universe port slowly opened, and engineering ships and material transport ships drove out one after another. The temporary starship factory automatically unfolded in this void, and a large number of robots and mechanical arms began maintenance work. After half a year of maintenance and repair, the restored Kuafu once again followed the escort fleet into the superluminal curvature state. Earth calendar year 7139. This is the 6th time the fleet has exited the superluminal curvature state. It has only been 191 years since the last time. The reason for exiting the superluminal curvature state this time is not the fleet's own factors. In front of the fleet, a huge wandering planet is fast flying towards the Andromeda. This is the largest celestial body encountered by the human fleet since entering the galaxy bridge. After a brief thought, Zero sent several probes to it. It is a gas giant planet. It still retains a considerable amount of hydrogen and helium. The temperature inside the planet allows these hydrogen and helium to exist in gaseous form. This is a gift from the universe to the travelers. Zero controlled Kuafu without hesitation to open the port of the microcosm, and included the planet that had been wandering for who knows how long into the microcosm. Earth calendar year 8713. The human fleet left the superluminal curvature state for the 10th time. In the Earth, LV Yongchang woke up from hibernation. This was his 4th awakening. Theoretically, the next time he awakens, the human fleet will be able to reach the Andromeda Galaxy. Due to the existence of the microcosm, the Academy of Sciences did not completely stop research work during the more than 4,000 years of sailing. During the hibernation interval, a scientific researcher launched a scientific research relay race. Simply put, it is to relay each other and take advantage of the awakening time to carry out simple research work. Although the efficiency is very low, it wins in persistence. The original space-time theoretical model has become more and more perfect with the experience package provided by the Shepherd. LV Yongchang reviewed the results of the scientific research relay race and inspiration began to rise in his mind. He seemed to have touched the threshold of the 7th level civilization. He recalled the original two-dimensional fragment confinement device, and the inspiration in his mind became clearer. The more advanced application of space seems to be based on dark matter, from matter to antimatter, and then from antimatter to dark matter. LV Yongchang nodded subconsciously. This is reasonable. He stood up, climbed onto the back deck of the mechanical arm robot, and gave Zero an order. Take me to the observation deck. Earth, observation deck. LV Yongchang looked out of the porthole. 7 stars wrapped by Dyson sphere are running steadily in the center of the small universe under the action of the grand unified field, forming a stable 7-star system. Under the action of the stellar core reaction catalytic device, these yellow dwarfs are rapidly releasing their own energy. In just a few thousand years, they have lost the energy that could have supported billions of years of burning. All of this energy has been converted into antimatter by the Dyson sphere system and drives the normal operation of the entire human fleet. Further away, the small universe port has been opened. Engineering ships and transport ships emerged one after another to carry out 6 months of maintenance work on the starships. In the universe. During these thousands of years, Kuafu and its escort fleets, except for the outer armor, almost all the internal devices have been replaced. So the question is, are the current Kuafu and the escort starships still the Kuafu and the escort starships when they left the Milky Way? This question suddenly flashed through LV Yongchang's mind. He didn't know the answer, and he didn't want to delve into the answer to this question. Professor, the remaining supplies in the microcosm have dropped to the 2nd level warning line. The electronic synthesized sound suddenly sounded, interrupting his drifting thoughts. LV Yongchang came back to his senses and cast his eyes on the holographic projection that automatically unfolded beside him. 2nd level warning line. In other words, there are still 40% of the supplies in the microcosm. Not a big problem. The voyage has passed 80%. And the remaining supplies are more than enough. He raised his hand and swiped a few times on the holographic projection. The scene of the macrocosm appeared in front of him. The Andromeda galaxy, which was only a light spot at the beginning, has now completely revealed its figure to human civilization. Andromeda galaxy. It is a galaxy much larger than the Milky Way. The bright light of the stars emanates from it, shining on the cold ships of the human fleet across a long distance. As for the Milky Way, which was once so huge that it could not be expanded, it has become the Andromeda galaxy. It has become a tiny dim light spot that is barely detectable. Milky Way, red circle. The rise and fall of human civilization is all gathered in that small dim light spot. The Milky Way chapter is over. Chapter 865, Arrival at the Andromeda galaxy. Earth calendar year 9800. Following a strong fluctuation in space and time, a small fleet of 500 starships appeared at the edge of the Andromeda galaxy. After 5143 years, human civilization has finally successfully crossed the chasm between the Milky Way and the Andromeda galaxy, in the interstellar space, where matter was originally extremely sparse. The particles from the Andromeda galaxy gradually became denser under Zero's control. Kuafu began to slowly increase its output power, and the small universe port also opened. This will be the last repair and resupply operation before entering the Andromeda galaxy. In the small universe of the People's Union. Electronic synthesized sounds rang out in Earth and Home Fortress. The fleet has successfully arrived at the preset destination. The voyage time is 5143 years. The current time is 4:16 in the morning of July 16th. 9800 Earth calendar. The first batch of awakening plans is launched. The Andromeda Milky Way galaxy bridge edge region. A planet with a faint blue-white light hovering quietly in the empty universe. The planet is very small, with a diameter of less than 500 kilometers by the standards of human civilization. It can only be regarded as an asteroid. The light on the surface of the planet is not strong, even somewhat soft. Through this layer of faint blue-white light, the surface structure of the planet can be clearly observed. It is a standard smooth spherical surface without any ridges or depressions. Strong interaction structure. Not only that, this planet does not have any rotation or evolution properties. It's an artificial planetary fortress. The design concept of this planetary fortress is quite different from the design concept of human civilization normally. the planetary fortress will expand its size as much as possible without affecting the structural strength and flexibility. The reason is simple. The larger the volume, the more weapons and equipment it can hold, and the stronger its combat effectiveness on the frontal battlefield. But the builder of the planetary fortress in front of him obviously didn't think. So. In the dark and cold universe, it seems extremely compact. Inside the planetary fortress is a relatively spacious space. A humanoid intelligent creature with light cyan skin slowly raised his arm, an arm composed of slender tentacles. 9436. This is its number. Under the control of humanoid intelligent creatures, these tentacles streak through the air. A light curtain composed of materialized light automatically appears in the area crossed by the tentacle. On the light curtain, a signal source was silently emitting a strong signal to the surroundings. The fugitive civilization from the Milky Way has finally arrived. 9436. Stretched out, and the tentacles on both sides of his body also stretched out. 9527. That lazy guy is unwilling to do such a small thing. Next time we meet, I must teach it a lesson. On the side, another humanoid intelligent creature rolled his eyes angrily. Come on, the Andromeda Galaxy is already shabby enough. I don't want to go to a ghost place like the Milky Way. Regarding the words of companion, 9435, 9436, smiled non-committally and changed the topic. Having said that, the higher-ups are also cautious enough. For a small 6th level civilization, they actually use the White Dwarf Fortress. I really don't know what they were thinking. This is such a waste. The companion slightly shook the tentacles on both sides of his body and operated on the light screen spread out in front of him. At the same time, he responded to 9436's complaint. It's normal. 9527. Have you forgotten what that cheater did before? It's always good to be on the safe side. If the operation fails and the mother civilization holds us accountable, it will be difficult for us to do business. The calculation of the 4-dimensional waterway has been completed, and the jump wormhole can be opened at any time. 9436's tentacles gently brushed the light screen and continued in a tone full of emotion. Thanks to the fact that the Andromeda branch is not like the Galaxy branch, there are 3 White Dwarf fortresses, so it's not a big problem to use one. Otherwise, the superiors will still have to worry about those pastoralists. Okay, we don't need to care about the decision from above. The companion interrupted. 9436. Get ready to open the jump wormhole, quick. Victory. After completing the mission, we have to report back to the black hole area in the center of Andromeda. 9436. Shook his tentacles again and skillfully pressed a few virtual buttons on the light screen beside him. In a dark and empty universe. The blue-white light on the surface of this short white fortress with a diameter of less than 500 kilometers gradually became brighter. The originally soft light actually became a bit dazzling at this moment. A twisted spherical space-time structure slowly appeared directly in front of the White Dwarf Fortress. Subsequently, the White Dwarf Fortress moved forward quickly and disappeared directly into this twisted spherical space-time structure. This starfield has once again returned to its original peace. People's Alliance small universe. Professor, welcome to the Andromeda Galaxy. As soon as Yongchang opened his eyes, a familiar electronic synthesized sound came to his ears. He took a deep breath and stood up from the hibernation cabin. Are we here? The long hibernation made his voice a little hoarse. Yes, Professor. Zero responded softly. According to the planned plan, the first batch of awakening procedures have been completed. Looking at the amazing Earth calendar numbers in the holographic projection, LV Yongchang couldn't help but feel a little dazed. It's been 9,800 years. He struggled to climb out of the hibernation cabin and subconsciously turned his head to look at the transparent porthole not far away. The microcosm was dim. During the long journey, the energy of the 7 stars was almost exhausted. LV Yongchang couldn't help but feel a little fortunate and scared. Although the energy consumption of the human fleet is currently mostly the microcosm traction platform, Kuafu, and the production activities in the microcosm. If it is replaced by the expedition plan, before obtaining the microcosm, the energy consumption will not be so terrible, but the human fleet without the microcosm can carry much less supplies. LV Yongchang made a simple estimate in his mind and came to a conclusion point. If it is replaced by the initial expedition plan, the combat power of the human fleet will be reduced by at least 90%, even more. After all, human civilization had to endure a war before leaving the Milky Way. Liu Yongchang was even more afraid. No wonder the 10th Empire started the expedition plan only after becoming a level 7 civilization. A civilization that has not mastered microcosmic technology is basically unable to afford the terrifying resource consumption of cross-galaxy navigation. The consequences of a forced expedition are also easy to imagine. It is nothing more than the fleet running out of energy and turning into a pile of scrap metal, or encountering an accident after reaching the target galaxy with difficulty because of a significant weakening of strength point. Based on the experience of human civilization expeditions today, the success rate of ordinary level 6 civilizations in galaxy navigation is probably less than 1%. Chapter 866 White Dwarf Fortress. An hour later, the first batch of awakened personnel have all awakened and returned to their jobs. The latest hibernation technology does not have as many sequelae as before. As shuttles travel between the starships, the slightly dim and empty small universe has begun to have some vitality. Earth Command Center. Everyone, the fleet is about to enter the superluminal curvature navigation state again. The target of this voyage is a small star system on the edge of the Andromeda galaxy. There, the fleet will get the most basic supplies. LV Yongchang stretched out his hand to open a holographic star map and briefly introduced the next voyage plan. Preliminary estimates show that the fleet will arrive at the target star system in half a month. After completing the material replenishment, the fleet will send a large number of probes deep into the Andromeda galaxy to preliminarily estimate the density of civilization distribution in the Andromeda galaxy. This will directly affect the next development plan of the human union. Please be sure to, before the voice fell, the azure blue holographic projection in the command center had turned blood red. At the same time, the piercing alarm sounded. Alarm. An abnormal space-time structure appeared in front of the fleet. The electronic synthesized voice was extremely urgent. Space-time distortion, extremely high. Before everyone could react, another new alarm sounded. Alarm. Discovered. Unknown civilization technology creation. 1. Wave has not settled. Another wave rises. Alarm. The other party has entered the superluminal curvature navigation state. The navigation speed is being calculated. The calculation is completed. The current speed 50,000 C. Looking at the 3 blood red alarms that appeared in the huge holographic projection, LV Yongchang only felt dizzy. An unprecedented sense of suffocation and hypoxia rose spontaneously. He opened his mouth but couldn't make any sound. 50,000 C. This. What level of civilization is this? Level 7 or level 8? Who are they? Why are they here? Is it related to human civilization? Countless questions burst out in LV Yongchang's mind. In less than a second, countless thoughts flashed through LV Yongchang's quantum brain. He suddenly widened his eyes, looking at the signal source in the Tachyon radar moving at an unprecedented speed. He roared and issued an order. 0. Sound the war alarm. Forced to wake up all crew members. Open the small universe port to the maximum extent and send out all war-type starships. LV Yongchang repeated in a stern voice. All warships, including Earth. This is the most efficient action of the human fleet since entering the 6th level civilization point under Zero's control. Kuafu directly entered the overload state. The Grand Unified Field Generation device is damaged. That's something to consider after surviving. The originally looming small universe port expanded to the limit at the fastest speed. A total of 10 Chiao planetary fortresses and 20,000 main battleships of various types appeared in the empty universe in just a few seconds. Not only that, after these main battleships, a huge battleship with a scale of 200,000 meters also squeezed out from the small universe point. As for the small universe point, as Zero's computing power utilization rate soared countless space factories began to operate at full power, and various reserve materials were transported to the corresponding areas in an orderly manner, and processed into various weapons and ammunition. Then, the transport ships lined up in a long line, constantly traveling back and forth between the small universe and the large universe to quickly replenish the fleet. Around these transport ships, there are dense, insect-like arrays of shipborne drones and floating turrets. After leaving the small universe, they quickly headed for the designated area. In just over 10 minutes, a starry sky fortress armed to the teeth appeared out of thin air on the edge of the Andromeda galaxy. Earth Command Center. The atmosphere was extremely depressing. In the bright red holographic projection, the fast-moving signal source was getting closer and closer to the fleet. Contact. Warning. The unknown technological creation will come into contact with our fleet in 30 seconds. The blood red numbers kept jumping, and the expression on LV Yongchang's face became more and more solemn. The countdown did not return to 0 in the end, but stopped at the last second when the two were about to collide. The fast-moving signal source broke away from the superluminal curvature state and appeared in the visible universe. Looking at the picture in the huge holographic projection, LV Yongchang's voice became extremely hoarse. Planet Fortress, a standard spherical warship with a soft blue-white light and an extremely smooth surface, quietly hovered in the vast universe. The blue-white light slightly dispelled the darkness of this empty starfield, and also showed its figure to the human fleet without concealment. It did not bring any warmth to human civilization. On the contrary, looking at this mini planetary fortress, everyone felt like they had fallen into an ice cave, and their whole body was cold. Send a query to the other party. LV Yongchang took a few deep breaths with difficulty, and after he recovered, he issued an order in a hoarse voice. The next moment, "Dear," a message with a self-decoding system, was sent to the blue-white planet fortress. The sweeper civilization, inside the white dwarf fortress, 9435, was shaking his tentacles and carefully looking through the light screen in front of him. The comparison results are out. This is the 6th level civilization that escaped from the Milky Way. Use the 4-dimensional shock bomb to solve it quickly. Or, 9436 looked at the light screen in front of him with interest and interrupted his companion's words. Wait a minute. They sent a message. As he said, 9436 quickly imported the information into the decryption system. Complex text quickly appeared in front of the two. Unknown advanced civilization, I pay you the highest respect. We are the enraged civilization from the Milky Way. I'm sorry to block your way forward. The main point of the words was humility. There is no way. Just from the difference in the speed of the two, human civilization and the other civilization are not of the same level. If I'm not humble at this time, am I looking for death? However, despite his humble status, Lu Yongchang still did not forget his previous experience. When you go out, use a small account. PS. Thanks to 912,133,165 for the completion. 666. The boss is generous. The boss makes a fortune. By the way, this name is awesome. Manually funny. Chapter 867 Free Fire. Looking at the information on the light screen, 9436 could not help but reveal a contemptuous smile. The original idea of a quick victory gradually faded away. This enraged civilization is quite interesting. Blocking the road. How do you think they came up with such a reason? Hearing this, his companion, 9435, couldn't help laughing. It's a bit outrageous indeed. After living for such a long time, this is the first time it has heard such a fresh reason. I changed my mind. 9436 looked at the light curtain in front of him with interest, raised his tentacles and gently closed the launch interface of the 4-dimensional shock bomb. Their arrival time in the Andromeda galaxy was much earlier than the branch's estimate. We still have plenty of time. The central black hole area is too boring. How about, let's have some fun with this interesting enraged civilization? Regarding 9436's proposal, companion 9435 couldn't help but show a look of displeasure on his face. Isn't this not good? What if we are discovered by the superiors? 9436 shook his tentacles repeatedly, and entered a line of information on the light screen in front of him. What are you afraid of? It's just a fleet of a 6th level civilization. How can it show off in front of the White Dwarf Fortress? As long as we finally solve this enraged civilization and the honor of the sweeper civilization is not damaged, it will be fine. The companion wanted to say something more, but 9436 did not give it a chance to speak, and directly pressed the virtual send button on the light screen. Tachyon message sent successfully. Looking at this prompt message, 9435's raised tentacles droop slightly, giving up the original idea of persuasion. That's right. In front of the White Dwarf Fortress, not to mention the 6th level civilization, even the 7th level civilization can't get the slightest benefit. The planetary fortress glowing with blue and white light was still hovering quietly in front of the fleet without any movement. The People's Alliance fleet did not dare to make any move, but silently waited for the other party's reaction. In the Earth Command Center, the air was so thick that it seemed to be dripping with water, and the strings in the minds of all the academicians and commanding officers were stretched to the extreme. Drop. Tachyon. Message detected. The familiar electronic synthesized sound sounded, and at the same time, Zero actively introduced the information into the analysis system. Like the messages sent by human civilization, this message also comes with dictionary information. The next moment, lines of information from unknown civilizations appeared on the huge holographic projection in the command center. But when they saw the first line of text, everyone in the command center turned extremely pale. This is the Andromeda branch of the sweeper civilization, White Dwarf Fortress number 3. Enraged civilization, you have finally arrived in the Andromeda galaxy. Yongchang's Adam's apple moved slightly, and drops of cold sweat slowly slid down his forehead uncontrollably. Just 2 sentences, but the amount of information contained is terrifying. The opponent turned out to be the sweeper civilization. This is the worst outcome Yongchang imagined, bar none. Secondly, White Dwarf Fortress number 3, that is to say, the opponent has at least 2 such planetary fortresses. Certainly. This information is not important to human civilization at this time. Finally, and most importantly, they have known for a long time that we are coming to the Andromeda galaxy. Fang Zhu on the side murmured in the same hoarse voice. Just out of the tiger's den, into the wolf's den again. Yongchang's quantum brain is running rapidly, trying to find a way to survive for human civilization. While he was thinking there, several new pieces of Tachyon information appeared on the light screen. How? Don't you know the sweeper civilization? Then you should know about the herder civilization in the Milky Way, right? That is the affiliated civilization of the Milky Way branch. An attack on an affiliated civilization is regarded as a declaration of war on the main civilization. As a 6th level civilization, you should know this rule, right? Yongchang looked at the information in the giant holographic projection with a cold sweat. He was relieved, and at the same time, heavy despair arose spontaneously. The good news is that the other party did not recognize them as human civilization, or in other words, the information of human civilization was not synchronized to the Andromeda branch. Similarly, the vest of the enraged civilization was not recognized. The enraged civilization at that time was almost accepted as a subsidiary civilization by the sweepers, of course. There is good news and there is bad news, although neither the true identity nor the vest has been revealed, but they still face the sweeper civilization head on. Yongchang tried to save this desperate situation. Dear sweeper civilization, I'm sorry, we don't know the so-called herder civilization of the Milky Way. This may be a misunderstanding. The next moment, a large amount of data was transmitted to the Earth, that is the specific details of the war between human civilization and the Milky Way herders. Among them, there are detailed images of the human fleet. Forgot? This is information sent by the Sweeper Galaxy branch. Now, do you remember? Yongchang's eyes were full of bitterness. Although Zero took over all the warships of herder in the later stages of the war, the data and information that had been sent were still beyond the reach of Zero. We are willing to pay adequate compensation for this. After a long silence, Yongchang made a final attempt. After a short wait, a blood red message appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The honor of the sweeper civilization cannot be damaged. In the command center, everyone's emotions suddenly reached freezing point. Liu Yongchang took a deep breath and adjusted his mentality. This is not the first time I have dealt with a sweeper civilization. But this is the first time that human civilization collides head on with the sweeper civilization. It is also the first time that human civilization has come into conflict with the top civilization in the universe. Everyone. Liu Yongchang cleared his throat and his voice gradually became smoother. Thanks to the sweeper civilization, human civilization has lost too much. Solar system, Earth, people, starting from the year 2030 in the Earth's calendar, the sweeper civilization has been the enemy of human civilization. At this point, human civilization has no retreat. So, what's the problem with the 8th level civilization? It just took a little more time to develop than us. When human civilization is still in the 2nd level of civilization, it can survive under the methods of the sweeper civilization. This battle will let the stubborn sweepers see the power of human civilization. Liu Yongchang's voice gradually became more and more passionate, and the atmosphere in the command center began to warm up. Attention. All, restart. The Dandelion Project. Open the small universe port and sow the seeds of civilization into the surrounding river systems. The flagship is ready to enter. All units are free to fire. Bye. Enough time for the Dandelion plan. Chapter 868 4-dimensional shield. Fuck him, Zhao. Zijia's face turned slightly red, and he punched the console in front of him with a dull sound. Human civilization will only fall on the road to charge. Activate the space-time trap at full power. Turn on the space annihilation device. Space rift starts charging. As before, Zhao Ziji still chose the same strategy as when fighting the herder. There is no way, without knowing the enemy's methods. This is already the optimal solution for the human fleet today. Inside the white dwarf fortress of the sweeper 9436 swung his tentacles comfortably and looked at the warning coming from the light screen with a relaxed expression. Looks like these little guys are ready to give it a go. It's interesting. Don't they know how big the gap is between the 6th level civilization and the 8th level civilization? Companion 9435 pondered for a moment and agreed in a low voice. It's very possible. After all, it's a civilization that came from a small place. According to the nature of 9527, there is not much benefit. It probably will not order the main fleet to deal with these 6th level civilizations. In this small place in the Milky Way, apart from the herders and the Milky Way branch, the enraged civilization should be one of the best. Don't talk about the strength of the 8th level civilization. I estimate that they have never even seen a real 7th level civilization. 9436 hearing this, the sarcastic smile in his eyes became a little stronger again. It looked at the data in the light curtain jokingly. A time and space trap to this level. How ignorant. As it spoke, its tentacles brushed the light curtain in front of it and quickly pressed a few buttons. Activate the 4-dimensional shield and watch the show. The moment the order was given, a strong fluctuation of time and space suddenly appeared around the white dwarf fortress. Running the space-time trap at full power created quite a wave on the car motion of space-time in just a few seconds. What follows is even more intense fluctuations in space and time. Under the blue-white light, slender deep black cracks continue to appear in this space. Like glass about to break, these slender cracks continue to connect and spread, and the short white fortress with soft light all around was still hovering quietly in the center of this space. It made no move to resist. Seen to it, these attacks in front of it are just like the breeze blowing over the mountains. Wow. As the cracks continued to spread, the space that reached the critical point was really like a piece of glass, shattered into countless pieces in an instant. An extremely black and smooth spherical area appeared directly in front of the People's Alliance fleet. Dark, deep, that is a hollow area formed after the space is broken. The next moment, the smooth outer edge of the spherical area began to become rough. Under the self-healing effect of time and space, this empty area is being repaired at an extremely fast speed. At the same time, the fleet consisting of more than 20,000 warships is ready to go. Hundreds of thousands of space rifts appeared in the vast universe, and the starlight from the distance became much dimmer. Whoosh, under Zero's precise control, these space rifts separated from the ship at the moment before the void area was about to disappear, and disappeared directly into the visible universe. Finally, the hole caused by the annihilation of space was completely repaired. The blue-white light appeared in the starfield again. Inside the Earth. Yongchang couldn't help but tremble in his heart as he looked at the pictures in the holographic projection. From the appearance alone, there was nothing unusual about that planet fortress. Attention. The spatial rift is about to hit the target. The moment the electronic synthesis sounded, the blue-white planet fortress suddenly disappeared into the universe. Zero. Yongchang's expression changed drastically, and he stood up suddenly. Explore the surrounding area immediately, and determine the enemy's coordinates as soon as possible. The enemy's coordinates have been locked. Without any pause, the electronic synthesized voice came again. The enemy ship has not moved. What? Yongchang's pupils shrank. He raised his hand and slid it in the holographic projection in front of him. The radar showed that there was a gravitational anomaly area in front of the fleet. That is where the White Dwarf Fortress is located. The mass of the White Dwarf Fortress far exceeds that of an asteroid of the same size. No, not moving. Yongchang stared blankly at the picture in the holographic projection. Invisible. Is this invisibility useful? He suddenly felt that his thinking was a little difficult to turn around. Could it be that if the battleship becomes invisible, it will no longer be in this space? Before he could figure out the reason, a warning sound came from the Tachan radar. The attack has successfully reached the enemy ship area, missed the enemy ship, and caused no visible damage. In the Tachan radar, the signal sources symbolizing space rifts passed through the gravitational anomaly zone out of thin air and flew into the distance without any abnormalities. The next moment, the blue-white light appeared again. The White Dwarf Fortress, as smooth as a work of art, appeared in front of everyone again. In the command center, the original silence suddenly returned. TSK. Yongchang gritted his back teeth and tried his best to think about the reasons behind this magical phenomenon. Continue the attack. Zao. Ziggy on the side quickly reacted. Switch the attack mode. Use kinetic weapons and energy weapons to attack. If the space weapons are ineffective, then use relatively primitive weapons. The missile equipped with the 4-dimensional jump function took the lead and rushed to the White Dwarf Fortress. Following closely were high-energy laser beams and matter fission rays. The scene of 20,000 warships firing at the same time was very grand. The dim starry sky suddenly became bright. From a distance, it was like a bright star appeared out of thin air. The White Dwarf Fortress still did not move, silently despising the attack of human civilization. When the first curvature missile approached it, the White Dwarf Fortress disappeared again in the visible universe. The next moment, the curvature missile suddenly appeared behind the area where the White Dwarf Fortress was located. The missile disappeared for a moment. LV. Yongchang's eyes were a little bloodshot, staring at the purple high-energy laser beams in the picture. Sure enough, when it was about to touch the area where the White Dwarf Fortress was located, the high-energy laser beam disappeared into the universe. When it appeared again, it had already arrived behind the White Dwarf Fortress. A laser beam that should have been continuous seemed to be cut off in the middle. I understand. The scene in front of him made Yongchang have a guess. Dimensional shield. To be precise, it should be a 4-dimensional shield. They twisted the port of the 4-dimensional clean bottle into a spherical shield. PS. Thanks to Linglang for the great certification. Thank you, boss. Chapter 869 Dandelion. What in the chaos? Fangzhu turned his head and asked Yongchang loudly, then why did this planet fortress disappear? It's not disappearing. Yongchang corrected again. It still stays in place, but we can't see it. You also know that the entrance and exit of the clean bottle are connected. What would happen if, and I mean if, we change the basic architecture of the clean bottle and integrated its inlet and outlet into a 3-dimensional sphere? Fang Zhu's expression moved slightly, as if he had realized something. But before Fang Zhu could speak, Yongchang started asking and answering questions. All light can pass through this spherical space without any obstruction. Invisibility is just a function that comes with it. All three-dimensional attacks cannot penetrate this four-dimensional shield and attack this white dwarf fortress. It's like two-dimensional creatures living on paper are basically impossible to pose a threat to us. What about painting? Fang Zhu questioned blankly. Picture as a two-dimensional creature. How can it cause damage to three-dimensional objects? Painting. Haven't you noticed that the purpose of all its attacks is to turn three-dimensional objects into two-dimensional objects? Only by making a three-dimensional object two-dimensional can it launch a real attack on it. It's just that in most cases, the two-dimensionalized three-dimensional object has lost its original structure, so there is no need to paint it. In short, Yongchang took a deep breath. The gap between low dimensions and high dimensions is extremely huge. Before mastering dimensional attack methods, ordinary attacks will be completely ineffective against this white dwarf fortress. Fang Zhu turned his head and glanced at the white dwarf fortress that once again appeared in the dark starry sky, glowing with blue and white light, and his tone became harsh. Then, what should we do? Yongchang did not speak, but frowned and looked at the picture in the holographic projection point. The command center also returned to silence, fearing that noisy sounds would interrupt his thoughts. If the basic technology of the four-dimensional shield is the clean bottle structure, then we actually have the ability to affect this shield. As he spoke, he reached out and opened a brand new holographic projection and briefly listed a few lines of formulas describing the structure of the clean bottle on it. I need a moment. Yongchang whispered to Zhao Ziji. In addition, confirm the status of the Imperial Fortress. Once the time is right, let 10 take control of the Imperial Fortress and take action. But Zhao Ziji quickly issued several orders. The gunfire in the holographic projection became more and more fierce, but they did not cause any form of damage to the enemy ships. The main thing is to win with momentum. Time passes minute by minute. The formulas and data in the holographic projection gradually became sloppy and complex, using a large number of warp missiles. Yongchang's voice was particularly clear in the quiet command center. Open the four-dimensional jump device in advance, perturbing the four-dimensional shield through these small clean bottle structures. Theoretically, this is possible. What is feasible in theory does not mean that it is feasible in practice. The clean bottle formed by a short distance jump and the clean bottle forming a four-dimensional shield are completely different products. But this is already the only attempt that human civilization can make. According to Yongchang's calculation model, hundreds of thousands of curvature missiles formed a vast formation under zero control point just like before. They shot towards the area where the white dwarf fortress is located. When they were about to reach the four-dimensional shield boundary, they simultaneously activated the short distance jump system. In the four-dimensional space, countless small clean bottle structures suddenly appeared on top of a super large twisted clean bottle structure. There is no doubt that this shakes the stability of the large clean bottle structure. In the originally empty target starfield, a faint blue-white light suddenly appeared. The white dwarf fortress revealed part of its true appearance, but the next moment, this faint blue-white light disappeared again. The four maintenance shield once again returned to its original stable state. Although it is only a momentary change, it still gives human civilization some hope. Continue. Zhao Ziji looked a little excited and gave the order, increase the number of warp missiles. If 100,000 pieces doesn't work, then 500,000. 1 million. Inside the white dwarf fortress, 9436 looked at the warning message on the light screen and let out a light sigh. This enraged civilization. I already have some basic understanding of dimensions. As it spoke, it waved its tentacles angrily. I knew 9527 was unreliable. This is not a lucky 6th level civilization. Almost promoted to level 7 civilization. Companion 9435 hurriedly operated on the light screen in front of him. It's not a big problem. I have increased the output power of the four-dimensional shield. Previous miracles were not repeated. Even though Zhao Ziji ordered a significant increase in the number of warp missiles, there was still no fluctuation in the four shields of the white dwarf fortress. Start the Dandelion Project. LV Yongchang's voice came, while the opponent's attention is attracted by these curvature missiles. Professor 10, sent a message. The electronic synthesized voice interrupted Lu Yongchang's words. The Imperial Fortress has completed the material supply and arrived at the small universe port. It can enter the large universe and attack at any time. LV. Yongchang pondered for a moment. Tell 10 to prepare for the attack. Wait for Dandelion to leave the fleet and immediately launch an attack on the White Dwarf Fortress. The artillery fire is still fierce. Without any decline point, the space-time fluctuations caused by short-distance space jumps continue to appear in this starfield, causing a continuous and insignificant impact on the four-dimensional shield point under the cover of endless artillery fire. Kuafu, in the central area of the fleet, appeared a little strange point under Zero's control. Kuafu unknowingly retreated to the rear at the same time. Small starships gradually appeared at the small universe port point. These starships are streamlined, and their shapes are very similar to shuttle ships. They are the carriers of the Dandelion project, the Dandelion Civilization Spark Ship point. According to the design of the Academy of Sciences, any Dandelion Civilization Spark Ship, after landing on a habitable planet, can upgrade civilization to the third level within 100 years. They lined up in an EAT formation, flew out of the small universe port silently, and came to the side far away from the White Dwarf Fortress. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 870, Gemini Explosion. In an instant point a sudden change occurred. Boom, boom, boom. Under Zero's remote control, all the curvature missiles self-destructed. After starting short distance jumps, the violent explosion and flames immediately flooded the starfield, where the White Dwarf Fortress was located. Point under the cover of the explosion and fire, these civilized fireships broke away from the main fleet and scattered in all directions according to the plan of the Academy of Sciences. The Dandelion will use the curvature engine to travel quickly to 1,000 light years away, and then switch to the antimatter engine for traditional acceleration. Point when the starship speed reaches 0.5 c, they will enter a dormant state and fly towards the target area purely relying on inertia. Point it's wonderful to imagine. Point but the reality is cruel. Point the moment the Dandelion left the main fleet, the White Dwarf Fortress, which had been staying put, moved for the first time. The originally soft blue-white light gradually became stronger, and an unknown wave spread out around it, with it as the center of the ball. Wow. The car motion of time and space instantly overturned. The Dandelion, which had just entered the super light curvature state, reappeared in the visible universe due to a curvature engine failure. Warn. A space-time tsunami has been detected. The intensity of that tsunami has exceeded the detection range. Dandelion has escaped from the super light speed curvature state. The warp engine is trying to restart. Restart failed. Warning. The warp drive is damaged. Not only the Dandelion, but the curvature engines of the entire Human Alliance fleet were all scrapped under this wave of time and space fluctuations without warning. For a time, the command center was filled with alarm messages. Space-time trap. Such similar attack methods made Lu Yongchang couldn't help but exclaim. Point looking at the detection data in the holographic projection, he felt as if his heart had skipped a beat. Point he had never even thought about a space-time trap of this magnitude, let alone seeing it. The intensity was so high that it directly destroyed all the warp engines of the People's Alliance. The scope is so wide that it covers a vast starfield with a radius of 10 light years. After being shocked, Lu Yongchang's heart sank. Dandelion project failed. It is impossible for a civilization's spark ship that has lost its ability to sail at faster than light speeds to escape from the sweeper civilization. Another plan failed. Professor, do you want 10 to take action? Zao. Ziji's voice was full of anxiety. If we don't use the Imperial Fortress, we may not have a chance. Wait a minute. Lu Yongchang shouted. The Imperial Fortress is the last trump card. Once it is used, we will have no way out. He glanced at the holographic projection beside him. What is shown in the projection is the operating status of several stars in the small universe. He gritted his teeth with a ruthless look on his face. Attention. All. The flagship enters and escorts Kuafu to the front line of the battlefield. Fleet, prepare for impact. When Zhao Ziji heard this, a look of shock suddenly appeared on his face. Professor, which weapon are you planning to use? Such a close distance. Our fleet will also be implicated. There is no way out. Lu Yongchang's eyes flashed coldly. Tell 10 that once the supernova explodes, it will immediately leave the small universe. If we let it stand in front of the human fleet, we might still have a slight chance of winning. Gemini. Starburst, located at the top of the 6th level civilization technology tree, is the advanced technology of Starburst. The principle is quite simple. Takes 2 stars of equal mass and flings them towards the enemy. The moment 2 stars collide and merge, fusion in the star's core is triggered, resulting in a supernova explosion. The power is more than twice that of Starburst. It is currently the most powerful weapon in human civilization and can easily destroy an entire star system. After the relevant theoretical breakthrough, human civilization has not applied it in actual combat, nor has it conducted any experiments. It is so powerful that it will even have a considerable impact on its own fleet. Test data shows that even the radiation protection layer provided by NUS cannot withstand this level of attack. But it's different now. Human civilization has already made bunker the fortress left by the 10th Empire. To a certain extent, it is a professional counterpart. Regarding Lu Yongchang's proposal, 10 naturally has no objections. Once something happens to human civilization, it and 10 will definitely not end well. The effect of space-time trap is still there. The fire of the antimatter engine suddenly lit up in the dim universe. The huge flagship, Earth, and the small universe traction platform Kuafu, accompanied by the main battleship, slowly sailed towards the White Dwarf Fortress. The offensive was suspended, and the White Dwarf Fortress also closed its foreshields, revealing its blue and white hull. Just like before, it was still hovering quietly in front of the People's Alliance fleet. It is like a cat that has caught a mouse, playfully watching the death struggle of human civilization. As soon as human civilization uses up all its methods, it will wipe out human civilization in one fell swoop. As time passed slowly, the distance between the two parties became closer and closer, and Lu Yongchang's heartbeat became violent. Open the small universe port and release the stars. When Kuafu and Earth arrived at the target area, Lu Yongchang let out a roar. But powerful space-time fluctuations suddenly appeared in this turbulent space-time area. A bright fireball grew from small to large and quickly squeezed out of the small universe port. Both the White Dwarf Fortress and the human fleet seemed insignificant in front of it. Under the influence of the grand unified field, it rushed towards the tiny White Dwarf Fortress quickly. This is not over yet. The next moment, another fireball appeared out of thin air and rushed forward at a faster speed. In just a few seconds, the two huge fireballs touched. The stellar core reaction catalytic device began to operate. Dazzling light instantly appeared on the edge of the Andromeda galaxy. 10. Do it. Another strong space-time fluctuation. A huge dark grey planet, much smaller than a star, suddenly appeared between the human fleet and the two stars. Although the scale of human warships today is very large, it is obviously not enough in front of the ice giant. Under Zero's adjustment, the Imperial Fortress blocked the front of the human fleet. Twin star explosion, officially launched. Two stars that were very close to each other rotated towards each other and flew quickly towards the White Dwarf Fortress in front. A huge bridge made of hot plasma appeared between the two stars, like a dazzling ribbon, gorgeous and dazzling. Space and time shook violently. Boom. A supernova explosion occurred. The violent flash of this moment illuminated the entire Andromeda galaxy. Immediately following, there was an unparalleled gamma ray burst. Exclamation mark. Chapter 871. Those who play with fire will get burned. A few minutes ago. Inside the sweeper White Dwarf Fortress, 9436 looked at the civilization fireships staying in place in the light curtain jokingly and made a sharp comment on the behavior of human civilization. Don't overestimate your own capabilities. Its companion, 9435, also had a faint smile on his face. I don't know what other methods this enraged civilization has. 9436 checked the operating status of the 4 maintenance shield again and waved his tentacles. It should be gone. Having said that, their strength has indeed surpassed most level 6 civilizations. No wonder the herders of the Milky Way failed miserably. Let alone the Milky Way, the herders of the Andromeda galaxy probably won't get much benefit from the enraged civilization. I'm afraid it's just the herdsmen in the heartland. Wait a minute. The voice of companion, 9435, suddenly rose a little higher, interrupting 9436's rambling. What do they want to do? What? 9436 looked at his companion in astonishment. Point in the light curtain. The curvature missiles that were flying all over the sky have stopped their unnecessary movements at the same time. The fleet also began to gradually adjust its formation, and 2 extremely large warships slowly sailed out from inside the fleet. Point with just one glance, it roughly guessed the purpose of the 2 battleships. One of them was probably the flagship of the enraged civilization. The other, with a relatively strange shape, should be the traction device of the small universe. Point the traction mechanism was crudely made and low on power. 9436 made a rough estimate and came to the conclusion this traction device can pull a small universe with a diameter of 1 light year at most. Point it curled its lips with a bit of disdain in its eyes. Can this also be called a small universe? Under the influence of the space-time trap, the movements of all battleships appear extremely slow. I guess I'm going to fight to the death. 9436 respond to companions' inquirers skillfully. You know what? The more powerful a civilization is, the more powerful its will to survive will be when it bursts out at this time. Once this extremely powerful will to survive is completely shattered, you must have never seen such a scene before. Its light blue skin was slightly white, revealing the excitement in its heart. I have done this to level 4 and level 5 civilizations before, but I didn't know about level 6 civilization. Just as 9436 was trying to describe this shocking scene to his companions, an alarm suddenly appeared on the light screen in front of them. 9436 took a quick glance at the information on the screen, and then the excited expression on its face gradually solidified. Heh, Xing, this enraged civilization wants to cause a supernova explosion. As expected of an individual with an 8th level civilization, he immediately understood the intentions of human civilization. Wait, it's not 1 star, it's 2 stars. Are they crazy? When a supernova explodes at this distance, and at this level, aren't they themselves the first to suffer? 9436 The eyes are full of horror. Supernova explosion. This unreasonable attack method can be useful even in the war of an 8th level civilization. It never expected that a small 6th level civilization could bring it such a degree of surprise. Those who play with fire will burn themselves. It also didn't expect that the will of survival bloomed by the enraged civilization in its dying struggle would be so brilliant. Ascend the dimension. Ascend the dimension quickly. 9436 screamed, raised his tentacles and quickly operated on the light screen in front of him. It takes time to upgrade the dimension. The companion also realized the problem and quickly adjusted the output power of the 4-dimensional shield. It's too late. Be prepared for impact. Boom. The brilliant light engulfed the entire starfield. Point. If it were replaced by a more advanced neutron fortress, or a quark fortress and a black hole fortress, a supernova explosion of this magnitude would actually be nothing. Point. But this is just a white dwarf fortress, a low-end combat force in the sweeper civilization. Point. It is not a battleship that can withstand a supernova explosion at all. Of course, compared with those stars used by 8th level civilization, the mass of the yellow dwarf used by human civilization is still too small. Point. The power of this supernova explosion is not great. Point. However, due to its special geographical location, it still attracts some eyes from the Andromeda galaxy. Point. The radiation and impact of the supernova swept through the white dwarf fortress like a tide. Point. At first, Under the influence of the force shields, the power of the explosion did not affect the white dwarf fortress inside point, but as time went by, under the constant impact of space-time turbulence, the four-dimensional shield began to crumble. The white dwarf fortress also gradually revealed its figure. Unlike before, the white dwarf fortress at this time was glowing with a strong blue-white light. Finally, the four shields surrounding the white dwarf fortress completely dissipated, and it was truly exposed to the aftermath of the supernova explosion. It seemed to have received a great impact, and the stable blue-white light became flickering. Other side. Unlike the sweeper civilization, human civilization is hiding safely behind the Imperial Fortress, enjoying the quiet time of the years. The Imperial Fortress, designed by the 7th level peak civilization and specially used to resist supernova explosions, performed far better than the white dwarf fortress of the sweeper civilization at this time. Under the control of 10, a simple space shield first appeared around the Imperial Fortress. After enduring the most violent stage of the explosion, the space shield quietly shattered. Then, a real planetary fortress dares to face the power of a supernova explosion. Relying on a special armor layer, the Imperial Fortress remained motionless in the aftermath of the supernova explosion. Inside Earth, LV Yongchang looked at the various indicators in the holographic projection nervously. When he saw that these indicators began to gradually decline, he suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. He succeeded. The Imperial Fortress resisted more than 90% of the radiation damage. The remaining radiation was absorbed by the NUS radiation protection layer. The human fleet that triggered the Gemini explosion at close range suffered almost no damage. The safety of the civilization itself was guaranteed, and Liu Yongchang also turned his attention to the white dwarf fortress of the sweeper civilization. When he saw the unstable state of the white dwarf fortress, his heart moved. Isn't this the opportunity he has been waiting for? Take advantage of its illness and kill it. Liu Yongchang gave the order loudly without any hesitation. 10. Take advantage of now. Attack. Chapter 872. Four-dimensional fortress. The originally smooth surface of the Imperial Fortress quietly cracked, revealing a gun muzzle of terrifying size. But silent vibrations came from inside the fortress the next second. A deep black space rift with a width exceeding the length of Earth flew straight towards the white dwarf fortress. That can no longer be called a space rift. It is simply a huge canyon formed by the collapse of space. Compared with the space rifts imitated by human civilization, it is like the difference between a caterpillar and an anaconda. The two are completely not in the same order of magnitude. At the moment of appearance, the speed of this space rift reached 10,000 c. But it's not over yet. The vibration inside the Imperial Fortress did not stop. Time passed slowly, and a strange black light appeared at the muzzle. Swish. The light flashed, followed by the space rift, and attacked the white dwarf fortress together. The white dwarf fortress of the sweeper civilization obviously discovered these two unexpected and outrageous attacks. The blue-white light on its surface flickered more and more violently, as if it was planning something big. The interior was in even greater chaos. Damn it. We were fooled. 9436, who had just escaped from the supernova explosion, roared. They are not a level 6 civilization. Level 7. They are a level 7 civilization. Damn. Cunning enraged civilization. Under the influence of the aftermath of the supernova explosion, the mobility of the white dwarf fortress was obviously greatly affected. Even though it had made evasive moves, this plus version of the space rift still slashed its side fiercely, like a kitchen knife cutting tofu. The dark black space rift easily penetrated a corner area of the white dwarf fortress. A piece of dense neutron armor directly broke away from the hull and fell into interstellar space. Without the constraints of the strong interaction force, these neutrons escaped and quickly decayed into a mass of dense hydrogen and helium. Following closely was a strange attack emitting black light. Fuck you. Looking at the image on the screen, 9436 turned pale and cursed. Dark matter cannon. This fucking enraged civilization also mastered the dark matter cannon. Fuck you. 9527. You told me this is just a level 6 civilization. Upgrade. Forced upgrade. It ignored the various alarms issued by the system and directly manually turned on the fortress upgrade function. In the eyes of human civilization, and 10. The White Dwarf Fortress at this time seemed to have given up the evasive operation and just stayed in place quietly. However, the flashing frequency of the blue-white light on its surface increased again. The black light finally arrived. But it did not hit the White Dwarf Fortress, but automatically spread in the area near the White Dwarf Fortress. Just when Yongchang and others were confused, a flash of light far more violent than a supernova explosion appeared in the area where the black light dissipated. Boom. This seemingly unprovoked strong explosion directly submerged the White Dwarf Fortress, flashing with blue and white light. Inside Earth, there was silence. LV Yongchang looked at the image in the holographic projection and swallowed hard. He vaguely remembered that in 10's description, the Imperial Fortress seemed to be an iron shell that was difficult to move. Looking at the strong explosion flash in the projection, he realized there is no conflict between being unable to move and having strong firepower. LV Yongchang suddenly felt a little relieved. Fortunately, I was a little bit sincere at that time, otherwise, human civilization would have died 800 times. What kind of weapon is this? The energy that human civilization replenished for the Imperial Fortress is far less than the energy of this explosion. The two are not even of the same order of magnitude. The law of conservation of energy is naturally impossible to make mistakes. So, there must be an invisible thing that has been converted into energy. Dark matter. LV Yongchang had a flash of inspiration in his mind and murmured in a low voice. As he had previously guessed, the key to entering the 7th level civilization is indeed the mystery of dark matter. Time passed slowly, and the flash in the picture gradually dimmed. Success. Did it succeed? Zao. Ziji's anxious voice came from the side. LV Yongchang also temporarily put aside the inspiration in his mind, held his breath, and looked at the holographic projection. The flash finally dissipated, and the White Dwarf Fortress at the center of the explosion also revealed its true appearance again. There was a sudden silence in the command center. The White Dwarf Fortress in the picture was quietly hovering in the universe. Except for the corner that was previously cut off by the space rift, there was no trace of damage on its surface. How is this possible? LV Yongchang exclaimed in shock. The power of this explosion even exceeded that of a supernova explosion. The opponent did not have the protection of a 4-dimensional shield. How could he not be damaged in this explosion? Attack. Keep attacking, boss. A space rift shot out from the muzzle again, rushing towards the motionless White Dwarf Fortress. Unlike before, this time, the White Dwarf Fortress did not dodge at all. The space rift also successfully hit the hull of the White Dwarf Fortress and passed through it. But it did not cause any damage. It seems that the real body of the White Dwarf Fortress in front of them does not exist in this starfield. What is in front of everyone's eyes is just an illusory projection. Such a magical scene, combined with the previous 4 protection shield technology, suddenly made an amazing guess appear in Yongchang's mind. 4 dimensions. His pupils trembled slightly, and he whispered softly. It is also very simple to verify this conjecture. Under Yongchang's order, the People's Alliance fleet attacked him again. Really. Whether it is curvature missiles or various energy rays, they can only pass through this layer of projection and cannot cause substantial damage to it. The moment the suspicion was verified, both Yongchang and the other commanders had a look of despair on their faces. How to fight this? A 4-dimensional shield is tricky enough. Now, the entire White Dwarf Fortress has become a 4-dimensional object. Continue to use Gemini explosion. No kidding. The dark matter attack from the Imperial Fortress cannot affect the White Dwarf Fortress in this state, let alone the twin star explosion. Inside the White Dwarf Fortress 9436, the pale skin gradually returned to its original light blue color. Panting heavily, it raised its hand and slapped it hard on the light screen in front of it. Damn it. Damn enraged civilization. Fire. A 4-dimensional shock bomb. I'm going to make these bugs pay. As the words fell, a small space-time distortion point appeared beside the White Dwarf Fortress. A spherical cannonball emerged from it and shot straight towards the human. fleet without any pause. When it reached the front of the human fleet, it exploded. There was no flash, no explosion. The warp missiles responsible for intercepting them suddenly turned into countless powders that were so fine that they were invisible. As if they had been attacked by some invisible attack point from near to far. As long as it is swept by this invisible shockwave, any three-dimensional object will turn into a pile of loose atomic soup. Chapter 873 Silicon Ray. The command center of Earth was extremely quiet. No matter who it was, when seeing such a strange and beyond cognitive picture, they could not immediately make an appropriate judgment. 10. What kind of weapon is this? LV. Yongchang, who was in the command position, opened his mouth and asked. 10. With difficulty. A line of information from the Imperial Fortress quickly appeared in front of everyone. Preliminary judgment. This is a high-dimensional attack launched from the 4th dimension, and the specific principle is unknown. LV Yongchang's heart sank, but he continued to ask, is there any way to resist it? The Empire did not completely decipher the mystery of the 4th dimension before leaving. It's over. Whether it was LV Yongchang or the rest of the people in the command center, they only felt a deep chill rising from the bottom of their hearts at this time. LV Yongchang did not speak, but just cast his eyes on the huge projection in front of him. In just a few words, this invisible shockwave had been transmitted to the edge of the fleet. There is no doubt that the Imperial Fortress was the first to bear the brunt. The solid and dense neutron armor was melting at a very fast speed, one layer to layers, like a pencil marker raised by an eraser. A giant hole with extremely neat edges appeared on the surface of the Imperial Fortress. LV Yongchang's eyes widened slightly, and his mind was blank as he looked at the picture in the holographic projection. The hole was spreading at a very fast speed. Seeing that the Imperial Fortress was about to become the first victim of this war, a piercing alarm suddenly sounded in the Tachyon radar in the Earth. An extremely powerful space-time fluctuation appeared next to the human fleet. Then, a space-time distortion structure that looked like a black hole slowly emerged. A cylindrical missile with a dark gray surface emerged from it. Before LV Yongchang and others could react, this strangely shaped missile collided head-on with a shock wave from the 4-dimensional. Boom. Black light flashed. Under the strong space-time fluctuation, the 4-dimensional shockwave transmitted towards the direction of the human fleet quickly disappeared into thin air. This life and death crisis of human civilization and the Imperial Fortress quietly collapsed under the attack of this missile. Is it over? No, it's not over yet. In the Tachyon radar, the space-time fluctuations transmitted by the space-time distortion structure that looks like a black hole are getting stronger and stronger. LV Yongchang subconsciously held his breath, and countless thoughts flashed through his quantum brain. What happened? Another advanced civilization got involved. Is it an enemy? Is it a friend? Pastoral? Or, just when LV Yongchang's mind was full of complicated thoughts, a silver-white ray-shaped warship emerged from it. The warship is huge, and its length is even more than 7,000 kilometers. The hull is flat, and there is a long tail of unknown purpose behind it. Wait. This doesn't seem to be a warship. When LV Yongchang saw the ray-like battleship swung its thick tail vigorously, then suddenly opened the huge mouth at the front, and sprayed a black energy body similar to a dark matter cannon towards the white dwarf fortress. He was completely dumbfounded. LV Yongchang couldn't help but raise his hand and rub his eyes. Is this too strong? Is it an illusion? Is this a battleship or a creature? He quickly raised his hand to adjust the parameters of the high precision camera, focusing on this ray-like battleship that suddenly appeared. The surface of the battleship has a silver-white metallic luster, but it does not have a hard texture like ordinary battleships. On the contrary, under the high precision camera, this layer of silver-white material even has a bit of flexibility. Of course, this is most likely an illusion. Just as LV Yongchang was carefully observing the ray-shaped battleship, the dark matter cannon from the ray's mouthpiece was quietly flying towards the target. Boom. When it arrived near the white dwarf fortress, it exploded. During the explosion, the ray-shaped battleship swung its body and quickly came to the front of the Imperial Fortress, carefully looking at the planetary fortress with part of its shell missing. Looking at this beautiful movement, LV Yongchang had to admit a fact. This behemoth with a total length of more than 7,000 kilometers was actually a living creature. The flash of the explosion gradually subsided, and the four-dimensional white dwarf fortress appeared in front of everyone again. Just like before, even the dark matter cannon could not cause damage to the four-dimensional white dwarf fortress. Silicon Manta civilization. A wide area touch-iron message came from the direction of the white dwarf fortress, and after being translated by Zero, it was presented on the huge holographic projection of Earth. You have crossed the line. 2 short messages, but they contain a huge amount of information. LV Yongchang's eyes flashed, and he quickly analyzed the battlefield situation at this time. Silicon Manta civilization. Although this is a name that has been translated, it still reveals a lot of information to LV Yongchang. Silicon Point. After coming into contact with the 10th Empire, this word is no longer a simple element symbol, but a symbol of a powerful alliance. Could it be the silicon-based alliance? LV Yongchang couldn't help but get excited. This is a big deal. Is human civilization saved? Thinking of this, his pale face once again showed a bit of ruddy color in the holographic projection. The huge ray-like creature stopped its original circling and sizing action, turned around and looked at the sweeper white dwarf fortress. Crossing the line. Sweepers, you crossed the line. Our Silicon Alliance has always remained neutral. Today, you took the initiative to attack the Alliance members. Do you want the Silicon Alliance to join the war? The ray-like creature slightly opened its huge mouthparts with a black glow, and also sent out a wide area touch-iron message. In the Earth. LV Yongchang stared blankly at the text message in the holographic projection. Although there was no expression on his face, his heart had already set off a storm. Neutral faction. Although he learned about the existence of the 3 major factions in the universe from Hua. Because human civilization had never come into contact with the existence of the neutral faction, LV Yongchang once thought it was a false intelligence. Never expected that the Silicon Alliance actually belonged to the neutral faction. LV Yongchang quickly raised his judgment of the strength of the 10th Empire and the Silicon Alliance, maintaining neutrality between the sweepers and the pastoral faction. It is impossible without any strength in hand. Alliance member? This is also your alliance member? The sweeper civilization obviously does not believe the words of the Silicon Ray civilization. If the Silicon Alliance wants to fish in troubled waters, don't use such a bad excuse. The pastoral faction is not our opponent. Even if the Silicon Alliance is added, the outcome will not change at all. In response to the words of the sweeper civilization, the Silicon Ray just waved its thick tail in disdain. Open your eyes and see clearly. Do you recognize this logo? As he said, the Silicon Ray pointed the tip of his tail at a pattern on the Imperial Fortress that resembled the structure of silicon atoms. This is the home planet of the 10th Empire. Trying to attack the home planet of the leader of the Silicon Alliance, Sweeper Civilization. Can I understand this as a declaration of war against the Silicon Alliance and the neutral faction? Chapter 874. Inside the White Dwarf Fortress. 9436 and 9435 looked at the information in the light curtain and fell into silence. Their light science skin turned pale at this moment. Silicon Ray civilization is right, 9436 said with difficulty, although it is different from the latest Silicon Alliance logo, but the design style of both is indeed the same. Taking into account the opponent's strength and origin, it can basically be confirmed that this is the home star fortress of the 10th Empire. Upon hearing this, companion 9435 suddenly panicked. So, what should we do? What should I do? 9436 raised his tentacles and gave his companion a hard time. Of course, give up this action. But that enraged civilization, companion 9435 turned white with anxiety. If it's the mother civilization, you crazy. 9436 glared at his companion. Do you know what it means to attack the home planet of the leader civilization of the Silicon Alliance? It's nothing if the Silicon Alliance joins the war. If it offends the neutral faction behind, just think about what the headquarters will do to us. But 9435 seemed to want to say something else. What's wrong? 9436 gave it a hard time again. If you want to die, jump into the 0 point furnace yourself, and don't get involved with me. No, it's not. 9435 sped up his tone and said what he wanted to say at once. I mean, the enraged civilization shouldn't be from the Silicon Alliance, right? Can we? Upon hearing this, 9436 was stunned. It seems makes sense. The enraged civilization is only a 6th level civilization, and the planet fortress is a creation of a 7th level civilization. The design styles of the two are also very different. This is enough to prove that the enraged civilization has little to do with the 10th Empire. Homestar Fortress. What? You said. Makes sense. Silicon Stingray civilization. This is just a misunderstanding. What we want to deal with is just the enraged civilization hiding behind the fortress of the 10th Empire's homestar. They attacked the galaxy herders. We can provide compensation for accidental damage to the Empire's homestar fortress, but I hope you will not interfere in the internal affairs of the sweeper civilization. Looking at the words in the holographic projection, Yongchang's face turned green. What are internal matters? At this moment, he can only place his hope on 10. How did you say it in the first place? They are the seed players who have passed the basic test of the Silicon Alliance. The enraged civilization is a silicon-based civilization with pure blood. He still remembers the evaluation given by 10. Development potential cannot be assessed. Due to both emotion and reason, we shouldn't leave them behind, right? Just as Yongchang was about to send a distress message to 10, who had completed identity confirmation, had already taken the initiative to send the evaluation document of enraged civilization to Silicon Ray civilization. The Silicon Ray silently looked at the Tachyon information encrypted by the most primitive encryption method. The development potential of civilization cannot be assessed. The Silicon Ray glanced in surprise at the enraged civilization, which was hiding behind the fortress of its homestar. When it saw the wide area Tachyon broadcast that lasted a billion times, it couldn't help but sigh. This encryption method and communication band have long been abolished by the Silicon Alliance. No wonder it hasn't received the broadcast from the Empire's homestar fortress. It stretched its body and made all preparations before responding. No. Silicon Ray civilization, you are going too far. It has been verified that the enraged civilization is a silicon-based civilization and has successfully passed the Silicon-based Alliance test project. They are also members of the Silicon-based Alliance. This battlefield suddenly fell into a strange atmosphere. The Silicon Ray civilization, the scavenger civilization, and the Imperial fortress all fell silent at this moment. What? Human civilization? In this situation, can human civilization still have the right to speak? At this time, Yongchang wished that the human fleet would turn into an inconspicuous interstellar dust and disappear from the sight of this group of advanced civilizations. Inside the White Dwarf Fortress, different from the quiet atmosphere outside, 9436 was furious inside the White Dwarf Fortress. 9527. Miu. Silicon-based civilization. What a silicon-based civilization. How dare you hide such important information? Damn. 9527. Silicon-based civilization is nothing but the silicon-based civilization from the Milky Way needs to be paid enough attention. No wonder the galaxy branch didn't take action against the enraged civilization. 9436 was trembling with anger. It turns out that he wanted the Andromeda branch to take the blame. Now, the companion on the side asked in a low voice. Now, 9436 swung its tentacles and returned to the seat again. Retreat. Report all situations truthfully to the mother civilization. Even if he is punished, he should be punished. 9527. Time passes minute by minute. Both the Silicon Ray civilization and the human civilization were extremely nervous at this moment. Needless to say, the human civilization. As for the Silicon Ray civilization, as a level 7 civilization, it also did not master the secrets of the 4th dimension. If a fight really came to a head, it would not be a match for the sweeper civilization. The wormhole just used to quickly enter the battlefield and the technology to offset the attack of the 4-dimensional shock bomb were actually the inventory devices left by the 10th Empire. Suddenly, after a flash of blue-white light, the slightly illusory projection of the sweeper civilization's white dwarf fortress became real. It returned to the 3-dimensional space. The Silicon Ray civilization breathed a sigh of relief, and its tense body also relaxed a little. Without any extra communication, the white dwarf fortress instantly disappeared into the visible universe. According to the display of the Tachyon radar, it was heading towards the Andromeda galaxy at a speed of more than 30,000 c. It was safe. Inside the Earth, LV Yongchang sat limply on the chair, smiled bitterly, raised his hand and gently wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. This is probably the moment when human civilization is closest to extinction, since leaving Earth. Of course, the crisis is not over. In the holographic projection, the huge silicon-based creature that looks like a ray bypassed the Imperial fortress and slowly came to the front of the human fleet. Chapter 875. I smell the scent of carbon-based life. A huge creature, whose body length even exceeds the diameter of Mars, quietly lurks in front of the Earth. The size of the Earth reveals its identity as the flagship of civilization. Similarly, the Silicon Ray also reveals its true face to humans. The long flexible tail is covered with sharp bone-like structures. One can imagine the result of this tail over 2,000 kilometers long whipping the Earth. Looking at the huge mouthparts with black light in the holographic projection, LV Yongchang swallowed hard. Here comes the question. How to disguise yourself as a silicon-based civilization in front of a silicon-based creature waiting online. Very urgent. The atmosphere has been set to this point. He can't go up and tell people that the enraged civilization is actually a carbon-based civilization. And 10 was wrong at the time, right? LV Yongchang glanced at the slightly open mouthparts again and gave up this suicidal idea. It seems that the Silicon Ray civilization has a bad temper. He didn't want to take the risk. 0. Lu Yongchang deliberately lowered his voice. Bring all the scientific research robots up. Control them. Halfway through his words, he suddenly got stuck. How can I control these scientific research robots to behave like a silicon-based civilization? Lu Yongchang thought of a quick solution. The behavior pattern refers to humans, and the information exchange method is a mixture of sound and microcurrent. From now on, we are the enraged civilization, a combined civilization, where carbon and silicon coexist. Do you understand what I mean? Got it, Professor? The moment the electronic synthesized sound sounded, the door of the command center quietly opened, and scientific research robots lined up in neat formations and entered one after another. Then, these scientific research robots came to the control consoles one by one, imitating human behavior habits, and made serious moves one by one. 40. This is not a difficult task. There are tens of billions of human behavior models in its database. And this model data will continue to increase with the growth of the population. Not to mention imitating humans in the command center. Even if it is to directly create an illusory robot civilization, it is not a problem. LV Yongchang naturally planned to do so. Under his command, not only the command center, but also the entire fleet, including the small universe, hundreds of millions of machines woke up at the same time and joined the ranks of humans. This alone is not enough. He first sent a greeting message to the huge silicon-based creature that was lying in front of the fleet, and then hurriedly added various basic settings to Zero's database. The main feature is a one-stop full service. Dear Silicon Manta civilization, we are the enraged civilization. I pay my highest respects to you and thank you for your help. For this level of civilization, LV Yongchang has only one communication principle: follow the heart. As the saying goes, flattery never wears out. As the saying goes, don't hit a smiling person. Just praise. You can't say good things and make mistakes, right? That's what they said, but the actual situation is a little wrong. The Silicon Ray civilization didn't care much about these flattering words. On the contrary, the black light in its mouthparts became stronger and stronger, and its tail covered with spikes was aimed at the flagship Earth. Enraged civilization, you are not a silicon-based civilization. I smell the scent of carbon-based life in your warship. As soon as these words came out, both sides were shocked. Needless to say, Yongchang was looking at the holographic projection with an incredible look on his face. You can smell this TM. Are you born in the year of the dog? Although he complained, he knew in his heart that this was probably a translation problem, and the original intention was probably to discover the existence of humans through some detector. As for the other existence that was shocked, it was naturally 10. Inside the Empire's mother planet fortress at this time, 10 was trying his best to explain to the Silicon Ray civilization the content of the explanation was naturally the various performances of the enraged civilization during the test. It's true, I'm crying. Silicon Ray naturally believed in 10's explanation. Therefore, Silicon Ray was also confused at this time. What exactly is going on? Respected Silicon Ray civilization. Enraged civilization is a civilization composed of silicon-based civilization and carbon-based civilization. We were born on different planets in the same star system. After a long dispute, we put aside our prejudices and worked together to become an interstellar civilization. In order to ensure the authenticity of this history, Yongchang even sent the Civilization Chronicle to Silicon Ray civilization. As for the source of the chronicle, it is naturally enraged civilization. Isn't this a ready-made template? It's all a vest, so it shouldn't be too much to modify the Civilization Chronicle again. After receiving the information, Silicon Ray civilization carefully checked this well-formed Civilization Chronicle. I can't find it. I can't find any flaws at all. Whether it is the coordinates of the star system, the parameters of each planet, or the events of all sizes that occurred within the civilization, everything looks so real. The confusion in the heart of the Silicon Ray is even greater. Silicon-based civilization and carbon-based civilization form a recombinant civilization. Not to mention it, the entire silicon-based civilization has never discovered such a strange thing. How to judge this? The 10th Empire didn't mention this situation when it left. After thinking for a while, it put away its antimatter cannon and retracted its tail that was pointing at the flagship of the enraged civilization. Wait a minute, this situation is very rare. I need to discuss with other alliance members before making a decision. The Silicon Ray swayed its body and looked around. Then, it turned its eyes to the flagship, Earth. For some reason, Yongchang actually saw embarrassment from the hideous face of the Silicon Ray. Do you still have stars? I just came out too hastily and forgot to bring the small universe. The energy consumption of intergalactic Tachan broadcasting is a bit high, and my own energy reserves may not be enough. Yongchang. 6. He suddenly worried about the correctness of the decision to join the silicon-based alliance. More than 10 minutes later, looking at the 4 dim stars in front of him, whose energy had been mostly extracted, the Silicon Ray sighed heavily. This is a last reserve of stars. Looking at the message sent by the enraged civilization, the Silicon Ray sighed again. It was just a level 6 civilization, and it was already very good to be able to take out 4 stars on the spot. It kept comforting itself in its heart. Then, it dived into one of the stars with some disdain. Under the eyes of Yongchang and others, a small arc of sparks splashed on the surface of the star. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.